Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto was ancient Fox King in high school DxD. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by FoxGod1243 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 0, Prologue. Time, exactly 5 years after the Kyuubi attacks Konoha. In Konohagakure, there was a single boy who was despised. He was Naruto Uzumaki as he knew it, but his true last name was a lot more important than anyone could have ever imagined. At the moment, poor Naruto was doing his best to escape the mob of people running after him. It was his birthday, and he wanted to go to his favorite ramen stand, but he was ambushed on his way there. Naruto was only turning 5 years old today, but he already knew pain better than any adult ever did. He might have not known the pain of losing someone you loved like most of the adults who attacked him claimed to do, but he knew far worse pain. He knew the pain of being alone, and not having anyone to love in the first place. He knew the pain of never having any friends or people who even remotely loved him. There were only a few people who Naruto liked in the village. The first two were the owners of his favorite ramen stand, Tsuchi and Aya Michiraku. There also was the Hokage who Naruto liked as if the man was his own grandfather. Finally, there was Mikoto Uchiha. Naruto didn't know why, but the woman seemed to really like him and treated him not only like a normal person but as a person which she loved. Naruto considered Mikoto the closest thing he ever had to a mother. However, that was not enough. The Ichiraku family were civilians, so they couldn't do anything to protect Naruto. The best they could do was give him food when he was hungry and hide him when he was chased. Mikoto did her best to heal Naruto when he was injured and protect him when she ran into people hurting him. However, she was the matriarch of the Uchiha clan, leaving her with taking care of her clan, not to mention she was an S-ranked kunoichi, meaning she was assigned very long missions sometimes. Finally, Hiruzen was the Hokage, so he was very busy. Hiruzen needed to do a lot of paperwork every day as well as attend council meetings and a lot more things. The best the aged man could do for Naruto was make sure he was actually healed whenever he made it to the hospital, as well as give him some money and an apartment. None of these people could help Naruto at the moment. Right now, he noticed that the mob which was chasing after him was getting closer to him. In a desperate attempt to get away from them, Naruto ran into an ally, hoping to lose them there. However, he soon regretted it as he saw that it was a dead end. Naruto had his back pushed against the wall as he tried to get as far away from the people who were chasing after him. Naruto didn't remember much from that night. He remembered pain. A lot of it. Naruto remembered the left side of his face being slashed open from his forehead, over his eye and down to the middle of his cheek, just above his mouth. He remembered having both of his arms covered in oil before being light on fire. Naruto remembered being stabbed a few times, the most painful ones being in his heart and in his lungs. And finally, Naruto remembered being impaled on a pitchfork, going all the way from his back through his stomach and out of his stomach. After that, Naruto was unconscious for a whole week, which was a lot with his incredible healing ability. Naruto once heard from the nurses around him that he was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. They thought he was unconscious, so they didn't mind talking about it. After learning that, Naruto researched what a Jinchuriki was, and after learning what it was, he understood why people were treating him the way they did. Naruto was sure of one thing though, those people were absolutely stupid, because if you seal a kunai into a scroll, the scroll doesn't become the kunai. After he understood that he was like the scroll and the Kyuubi was like the kunai. Naruto couldn't be more grateful for Kyuubi's help in healing him every time he was beaten, because if it wasn't for its healing, Naruto would have been dead more times than he could count. Naruto slowly opened his eyes to find that he was staring up into a white ceiling. Great, I'm in a hospital, I wonder what happened, he thought to himself before he remembered what happened and whimpered, feeling phantom pain in the places he was injured. Naruto remembered only one good thing. He remembered that just before he was killed by decapitation, which with all due respect to Kyuubi's power, even it probably couldn't heal, he was saved by an Anbu. She had a cat mask, purple hair and brown eyes which upon seeing his condition were filled with sorrow and grief. Naruto wanted to thank the women, but he already made his decision. He couldn't take the pain anymore, he couldn't take everyone's hatred anymore, he just couldn't. Naruto at that moment decided that he would go home, take whatever he still had there and leave a note to the people who cared about him before leaving the village, deciding that whatever life had in store for him would be better than what he had in the village of Konohagakure. And so, Naruto quickly sat up, ignoring the pain he felt all over his torso, probably from unhealed wounds, and made his way towards the window. Naruto jumped out of the window and landed on the roof of the building under it, grunting in more pain as he did so. He started to slowly jump from rooftop to rooftop until he made it to his apartment. Naruto picked up a backpack and threw in whatever he thought he would require. Naruto got a sleeping bag, all of his money and whatever kunai, shuriken and saban he was able to collect out of his body in the few times he was able to get away. He closed the bag and placed it on the floor next to his bed. He took out a note along with a pen and started writing as much as he knew. to Hirozuno Jaizen and Tuchio Jaizen, and I am Nichin and Mikoto Abakan. I am sorry, but I cannot take it anymore. I am leaving the village to train myself away from the hateful people, and I hope I will be okay so I could come back to show you just how strong I got. I hope to see you guys again someday. From Naruto Uzumaki. The letter was written in horrible handwriting and with the grammar of a 5-year-old, but that is what Naruto was. He never had anyone to teach him, so he taught himself how to write and read, doing whatever he could to get good enough at it to be passable. After placing the note on his bed, Naruto threw the bag onto his back and left the apartment, again going through the window as he didn't want to face a potential mob which could be waiting for him at his door. He jumped from roof to roof, slipping through the umbu at the main gate, and running as far away from Konoha as he could. It was when Naruto got around a mile away from Konoha that he took a rest and stopped running, placing his hands on his knees as he panted and tried to catch his breath. Suddenly, 3 people appeared around Naruto, all of which were wearing a black shirt, black ANBU pants and blank ANBU masks. Naruto instantly straightened up and reached into his bag, drawing a kunai out. Before anything could happen, Naruto's hand dropped the kunai before he fell forward, his vision turning back as he fell unconscious. Inside of Naruto's mind, Naruto woke up inside of a sewer, looking around him in hope he could detect where he was. He sighed as he didn't remember this particular sewer, meaning it wasn't Konoha's as he was in all of them. Naruto started to walk through the sewer, looking around for an exit. After a little while of walking, Naruto noticed a door and decided that he had nothing to lose, opening the door only to find a massive room on the other side. Naruto walked in and saw a massive cage with black vertical bars, and between 2 bars hung a paper which had the kanji for seal on it. Naruto walked closer to the bars only to find a woman there looking at him with a blank expression on her face. Even as a 5-year-old child, Naruto had to admit that the woman was beautiful. She had knee-length blood-red hair with red eyes that had a vertical black slit in them. She stood at the height of 5 feet 8 inches and had fair skin. She looked to be no older than 17 years of age. Her face was heart-shaped, and it was equipped with a small button nose and full lips. Her bust size was around an E-cup. Her wide and rather busted chest became thinner at the waist, and then flared out into a massive ass. Down from her fat ass, her legs went down to thick thighs and long legs. All in all, she was perfect and had the perfect version of an hourglass figure. Other than her beautifully naked body, she had 2 fox ears on her head and 9 fox tails waving around behind her. The woman was stoically looking at him, watching him slowly coming towards her. Once Naruto stood in front of the bars, the woman bowed at the waist, her tits jiggling as she did so. "Greetings, Naruto-sama. I'm pleased that I was capable of bringing you here," she said as she straightened up and gave Naruto a small smile. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the woman. "Why, you are the Kekubi, right?" he asked, to which she nodded. He pointed a shaking finger towards her. Then why do you call me that?" he asked as he pointed his shaking thumb in his direction. The woman smiled as her eyes closed. The woman seemed to be having some kind of memory going through her head. She opened her eyes and looked at Naruto. "We have quite a bit to talk about, however, for now, I believe that you have people who came to attack you. I would like for you to remove that paper from the seal and allow me to come out of the seal so I could protect you. You will survive the extraction as your body isn't human. At the moment, all I can tell you is that I have been brought to this world from a different one when the former 9-tailed Kitsune Yukai died. I have been brought to this world by your parents who, after a battle, knew they could never recover to the way they once were and were actually starting to slowly die to time. Because they knew that they didn't have much time left, they assigned me as the person who will protect you as well as serve you as your most powerful servant. I will explain everything later, but for now, I ask that you free me in order for me to keep my promise to your parents and protect you from those men," she explained, and Naruto simply stared at her in shock and confusion. The woman pointed towards the tag with the kanji for seal on it. "Please, there isn't much time. You need to release me right now," she pleaded. Naruto snapped out of his shock and nodded. Somehow the water of the sewer around him lifted him up to the seal tag before he removed it. The bars swung open as the Kyuubi smiled at Naruto. "Thank you, Naruto-sama. I promise to explain everything once we're outside, so please, wait just a little longer. Oh, and call me Kurama. Having my master call me by my title is unfitting," she said before Naruto's vision turned white. Naruto opened his eyes only to stare in shock as Kurama held 3 heads by their hair while the bodies were left on the ground. She turned around and smiled at him, taking one of the fake ANBU's clothes to cover her body, even though the clothes were very tight around her big breasts and ass. However, Kurama used those clothes only to hide her private areas from anyone who might be walking by and seeing them. After all, she was only her master's to do with as he wished. Kurama walked over to one of the nearby trees and punched the tree trunk, making the tree fall over, allowing the two to sit on it. Kurama sat on the tree, but before Naruto sat on it, she lifted him off the ground and sat him in her lap, his face looking right into her breasts. Naruto looked at her in fear only to relax when he saw her smiling. "It is unfitting for my master to sit somewhere he isn't comfortable," she explained before her hand traced over the scar on his face. After the last time Naruto was tortured by the mob, he was actually hurt so badly that even Kurama couldn't fully heal him. He was left with a scar on his face from his forehead, over his eye and to the middle of his cheek, just above his mouth. He had a slash scar going from his right shoulder to his left hip. He had a stab wound over his heart, 1 over each of his lungs and 2 over each of his kidneys. Finally, Naruto had a scar in his lower stomach from the pitchfork he was impaled on. It was 3 rather big scars in a round shape. Other than the weapon scars, Naruto had both of his arms show burn scars from his palms all the way to his shoulders. Kurama frowned as her hands went over Naruto's body, feeling the scars. Kurama leaned forward and kissed Naruto's forehead. "I'm deeply sorry, Naruto-sama. I left such nasty marks on you," she said sadly. Naruto shook his head as he did his best not to blush from her kiss. "Don't apologize. You are not the one to blame for my treatment, and certainly for not healing me. Without you, I'd be dead 100 times over by now. You shouldn't be apologizing to me. I should be thanking you for all you have done for me so far," Naruto said. Kurama smiled happily. "Thank you for saying such kind things to me. However, I was simply doing my job. My whole reason for being here is to protect you," she said as she wrapped her hands around his head and pulled him into her bust. Naruto hesitantly wrapped his own arms around her, enjoying an embrace like he had never felt. The only thing close to what he was feeling right now was when Mikoto would hug him, but it was usually short, and only as a greeting or a goodbye. Kurama released Naruto's head after around 5 minutes only to see him looking at her with a few tears on his face. She started to panic, thinking she did something wrong. "I'm sorry, Naruto-sama, did I do anything wrong?" she asked. Naruto shook his head as he smiled and wiped his tears away. "No, you did nothing wrong. It's just that I've never had someone hold me in their arms for so long. It feels really good," he sadly said. Kurama nodded her head, sighing in relief as she smiled. She placed her hand on his head. "Well, if you ever want anyone to hold you, just tell me," she said, smiling. Naruto happily nodded before he remembered what she said. He nervously scratched the back of his head. "Do you mind explaining what is going on? I'm really curious about it," he asked, feeling bad for ruining the moment. Kurama's eyes widened. "Yes. Of course. I totally forgot about that," she said. "I'm so sorry for forgetting, Naruto-sama," she said. Naruto's sweat dropped. "It's alright, you don't need to apologize so much. Also, please drop the sama crap. I don't care for honorifics," he asked. "I'm sorry, Naruto-sama. But I can't do either one of those. I feel the need to apologize for what I'm responsible for. Also, you are my master, so I need to show you proper respect," she explained with a serious face. Naruto sighed as she cleared her throat. "Anyways, yes? Let's explain. Let's begin with what you are. You are from a species called devils, as were your parents. There are 5 major species in the worlds. There are the humans, devils, angels, fallen angels, and yokai. However, first we should go over the worlds which exist. There is this world, the world of the elemental nations and whatever is around it, something which no one ever discovered, by the way, as it is said that out there, in the seas around the elemental nations, there lives a monster of unimaginable power, though the only ones who ever tried to go into those seas were humans, so I don't really know how dangerous it really is anyways. This world is ruled by humans and is considered humans' territory. Next there is the overworld, which is also ruled by humans. However, devils usually arrive in a territory which was assigned to them by the leaders of devil kind, the Satans. Those assigned territory is theirs to watch over and make sure that no trouble occurs there. Next there is the underworld. It is the home of devils and is the place where most devil clan compounds are located. Finally, there is heaven, which is where the angels live. That actually used to be where God also lived before he was killed, but we will get onto that later," Kurama explained with a smile as she saw the way Naruto listened to her every word with what seemed to be interest. "Now let's get onto the species. First, the humans. There are 2 kinds of humans, those who can use chakra, who usually are from the elemental nations, but there are some rare cases of them appearing in the overworld, and second, those without chakra. They are special as they normally have no power, but in case a devil revives them as a half-devil, they obtain something called a sacred gear. It's a special ability which is unique to the humans of the overworld and a few of the humans from the elemental nations. The special gear could be anything from creating swords out of nothingness, and the ability to heal with nothing but the use of the user's magical power, to a situation like we had when I was sealed inside of you, where a strong being is reincarnated into your body, and you can use its power. The being could be anything from a yokai like myself to a dragon, as long as said being is powerful enough to use its magic in order to revive itself, using the human's body as a place where they could charge up their power after using so much of it to reincarnate. Humans usually reside in the elemental nations or the overworld, though some devils find amusement in keeping humans in the underworld as pets. Just as a little side note, something you should know is that most humans do not know about the existence of magical beings or the other worlds. However, those who do can train in order to unlock their magic and then either become magicians or witches. Next, we have the angels. They have the power of light and are to be very pure, staying true to the teaching of the God of the Bible, which, as I said, is dead. More specifically, was killed during the last war by 2 devils and their peerage, but we'll get onto those amazing people later. Even though God died in the last war, most angels do not know about his death, and even those who do pray to him, having gotten used to doing so. The angels reside within heaven, as I have previously stated. Let's move on to fallen angels. They are very similar to angels, only that they are impure. An angel becomes a fallen angel by giving in to their impure thoughts or getting too far away from the teaching of God and His Bible. Even though they have fallen and have been kicked out of heaven, the fallen angels are still using light power to fight. After being kicked out of heaven, fallen angels have taken refuge in churches which are located in the overworld, making those into their bases, though some of them simply live in normal apartments in the overworld. Let's talk about yokai before we speak about devils. Yokai are basically animals infused with energy, which most of the time is magic combined with senjutsu chakra or natural chakra. There's nothing too special about us yokai, but we can use magic, and each clan has a special use of magic which only they can use. For example, my clan, the Kitsune yokai, are known to use the blue flames which are called fox fire. Those flames are hotter than normal flames and can be controlled by the creator of the flames or any Kitsune yokai stronger than said creator. We reside within special places in the overworld. Again, for example, the Kitsune yokai reside within a temple. Finally, we have devils. Devils are different from all of the other species. They have clans within their society, the clans each having their unique magic type. For example, the Gremory's destruction magic and the Phoenix's fire magic and fire control. Now, because the devils suffered great loss in the last war, they have created a way for them to revive people as half-devils, using that to repopulate the devil kind. That method is called the evil pieces, and they are built like a chessboard. A devil can revive any being they might want into their peerage using one of the chess pieces: pawn, rook, knight, bishop, or a queen. If the one which the devil is trying to revive is too powerful for the selected piece, the devil can use more than one piece as long as it is the same kind of piece. Meaning you can revive someone as 2 knights or even 8 pawns, but you can't revive someone as a bishop and a rook. Take me for example. I was brought to this world by your parents in order to become your queen, but in order to make me your queen, you would need to get at least close to my own power level, as those are the rules. You get your set of evil pieces when you turn 8 years old, so I hope that by then you will become powerful enough. But even if you won't, I will wait until you are ready, as I was asked by your parents. Though at the rate at which you can learn, as well as some tricks I can show you, you will probably be there in no time. Kurama explained, smiling lightly as she watched Naruto nodding to her every word, taking notes in his mind. Naruto smiled at her as he hugged her again. Thank you, Kurama-chan. I'm happy you told me all of this. Now I can get started on using some devil powers as well. The one thing I'm curious about. You said that 2 people killed God, right? Isn't God supposed to be immortal? He asked, tilting his head to the side as he looked at her. Kurama smiled as Naruto confirmed that he was paying attention, and with a good question too. Also, as she watched Naruto tilting his head like that, she wanted to yell that he is cute and hug him to death, but she held herself back as her master asked her a question and she had to answer. Well, the answer is yes and no. You see, all supernatural beings, be it God, devils, angels, fallen angels, yokai, dragons and so on, are immortal. At least age we are. No supernatural being will die from old age. However, we can die from injuries. God, much like the Phoenix clan, was said to be immortal because of his incredible regeneration. However, out of the people who killed him, 2 of which were masters of sealing magic, using it to seal away God's regeneration, it wasn't easy. Even after that, it took a suicide move from both high-ranking devils' peerages to kill him. Even after his regeneration was sealed away, and in his death, he took both high-ranking devils' own regeneration, leaving them both mortal to aging, meaning that their time was approaching, that their power was weaker than ever. Those 2 knew that they couldn't keep up with their reputation as the 2 who killed God with their peerages and decided to disappear, going to one of the humans' worlds to keep on low profile as they had a child. She explained. Naruto's eyes widened. He looked at Kurama in shock. Are you saying that my parents were the ones who killed God? He asked in shock. Kurama snapped her fingers as she smiled. Very good, Naruto-sama, you are quite shocked for someone your age. Yes, they were. My mother was actually in your mother's peerage, and the same goes to my father, and your father. That's why they asked me to be your queen, and after getting such an offer from such powerful, kind and respectable people, I couldn't refuse. Only hoping that you would end up being as great of a person as your parents were, and also being just as powerful. I always wanted to be a part of a strong person's peerage, and I hope you could get to your full potential so you could become the person I always dreamed of serving, she said with a smile. Naruto clenched his fist as he held it in front of his face. I won't let you down. I promise that I will become the strongest man to ever exist, he said in determination. Kurama giggled lightly as she pulled Naruto into her chest. I know you will please do so, she said happily. Just then, she sensed someone appearing inside of the nearby bushes. Apparently, Naruto sensed it too as he jumped out of her lap and hid behind her back. Kurama quickly stood up and placed Naruto behind her defensively. Man, I haven't been in this world for a while, a voice said as a man walked out of the bushes. He was a man who seemed to be in his early 20s. He had shoulder-length crimson-red hair and blue-green eyes. The man wore a white robe which had green coloring to its sides. It was closed with a black string which was wrapped around his waist. He wore white pants and on his shoulders were what seemed to be armor. Kurama couldn't help but smile slightly as she saw the man. You know, it's weird how you always seem to appear whenever someone really needs you, Sirzechs, she said, stepping out of her fighting stance. The red-haired man looked at her before his eyes widened. Kurama-chan? What are you doing here? he asked in confusion. She stepped aside and revealed Naruto, causing Sirzechs' eyes to widen. The same thing you do. I was assigned as Naruto-sama's protector and future queen, she said, making the man nod his head as he walked over and couched down in front of Naruto. Naruto quickly ran behind Kurama's leg, hiding from the man. Naruto has grown to fear people he didn't know, as those people usually hurt him. Kurama crouched down next to Naruto as she smiled and patted his head. There is no need to fear Sirzechs, Naruto-sama. He won't hurt you, and even if he wanted to, both he and I know he stands no chance of defeating me, she said, smirking at Sirzechs. The man's eye twitched. You barely defeated me last time, and that was the only time we fought, he huffed and pouted. Naruto giggled at the way Kurama dismissed the grown man. Both older beings smiled at seeing Naruto laugh, taking it as a good sign. Kurama stepped aside lightly as she stood up and motioned for Sirzechs to go over to Naruto. The man slowly walked towards Naruto and couched in front of him. He traced his hand over the scar on Naruto's face, causing Naruto to wince, remembering the event. Sirzechs glared up at Kurama. Weren't you supposed to be protecting him? What could have possibly done this to him? He asked angrily. Kurama lightly punched him over the head, giving Naruto something new to focus on as he laughed lightly. If you must know, on the day Naruto-sama was born, I was placed under an illusion, causing me to attack his village. I was able to release myself from the illusion only after I was commanded to kill Naruto-sama himself. After I released myself, I was sealed into him by Kushina-sama and Minato-sama. That's also something you should know, because I was sealed into Kushina-sama while she was pregnant with Naruto-sama, as well as the 5 years I spent sealed within him. It made Naruto-sama into 10% Kitsune Yukai, something that I'm sure will only make him stronger with the Phoenix clan's control over fire, because I was sealed into him without any way to make contact with him. I wasn't able to ask him to release me so I could keep him safe. I'm sorry to say that his village used Naruto-sama as someone to get their frustration out, thinking him to be me and wanting to take revenge on the being who killed their loved ones on the night I was controlled. The best I could do is send my energy to heal his body every time he was injured. What caused this scar and the rest of them under his shirt is that the people who attacked him had stabbed his heart. I needed to focus all of my energy to heal that, and so, I couldn't fully heal them in time so they wouldn't leave scars. Kurama explained, a sad tone to her voice. Sirzechs nodded his head sadly as he looked at Naruto. Do you think you could show me the rest of your scars? He asked kindly. Naruto looked up at Kurama for an answer. She nodded her head and Naruto lifted his shirt, allowing Sirzechs to see his scars and malnourished body. The red-haired man sadly nodded his head. Okay, I understand the situation. I apologize for not arriving earlier. In fact, we just received word of Kushina-sensei and Minato-sama's deaths, as well as that they had a child. Once we heard about you, I came as fast as I could, but I couldn't make it in time. I'll take you both to the Gremory castle so you could first get to know my parents as well as my little sister and her friends who are the young devils your age. After that, I'll make sure you two can stay in our castle where Kurama-chan can train you as much as you want. If you do not feel comfortable revealing your scars to people, I can place an illusion over you to allow you to make it seem like you don't have them, though you would easily be able to remove the illusion. He explained kindly. Naruto nodded his head. I would like it if you hide my scars. I would like to avoid talking about what I went through in Konoha, but if people ask about my scars I would be forced to do so. I might show my scars if I feel safe enough with someone, but not yet, not until I find someone who I trust completely, he said. Sirzechs nodded his head. Kurama-chan would remove the illusion for you if you want her to until you learn to use magic, and then she will teach you how to do it yourself. Okay? He asked, and Naruto nodded. Sirzechs concentrated his magic on Naruto, and in a puff of smoke, Naruto appeared to be like new, his scars completely gone. Naruto smiled as he tugged in Kurama's pants. She looked down at him. Yes? What is it, Naruto-sama? She asked. Naruto scratched the back of his head. You said 2 people named Kushina and Minato sealed you into me, so I assumed they were my parents, but are you referring to Konoha's yellow Flash and Red Death? If so, I found where my ramen addiction came from, he said sheepishly. Kurama laughed as she crouched down and patted Naruto's head. Yes, they were your parents, and yes, your ramen addiction came from your mother. She, as you know, held the record for eating the most ramen in one sitting in Ichiraku's ramen at 57 bowls. She said cheerfully. Sirzechs' sweat dropped. I told Kushina-sensei that it wasn't healthy to eat so much ramen, but she just ignored me. I guess she always did have a problem with her ramen eating, he mumbled to himself, wondering if Naruto's addiction could be prevented or if his addiction was as bad as Kushina's. Naruto tugged on Kurama's pants again. Kurama-chan? Why is he calling Ka-chan Kushina-sensei? Naruto asked. Kurama looked at Sirzechs for a while before grinning. Well, your mom was supposed to be the next head of the Gremory clan, though she refused it, and instead, Sirzechs' parents took the job, his father becoming the official clan head and his mother becoming the matriarch. I think it was around 15 years ago, when Sirzechs was only 7 years old and Kushina-sama was 11. She caught him peeping on the woman's hot springs, so she kicked his ass. After she did, Sirzechs asked her to teach him, something she refused. He kept asking her over and over again until when he was 15, she agreed, seeing as there was a war approaching and they needed everyone to be as strong as possible. She taught him a few things and then went out into the war, her and the man she was engaged with, Minato, going to defeat the leader of the fallen angels, or as I have previously called him, God. By the way, Minato, your father, he was the original heir to the Phoenix clan, but he too refused. His elder brother ended up taking the spot as clan head while he went out to do whatever he wanted. In fact, you might know them both as Kushina Uzumaki and Minato Namikaze, but their true names were Kushina Gremory and Minato Phoenix. Just like your name isn't Naruto Uzumaki, it's Naruto Gremory Phoenix. She finished, her and Naruto laughing as they watched Sirzechs pout at having Naruto hear his embarrassing beginning. Sirzechs clapped his hands. Anyways, we should really get going. You have a few people I would like you to meet, my parents and your aunt and uncle, the leaders of the Phoenix clan included. He said. Kurama grabbed Naruto's hand and stepped closer to Sirzechs just as a red circle with the symbol of the Gremory clan appeared under them. The circle rose up and swallowed them into it, causing them to vanish. The three appeared inside of a massive room. The room had a simple wooden desk in it. However, that wasn't what caught Naruto's attention. There were a lot of people in the room. 12 to be exact. At the sight of so many people which he didn't know, Naruto ran behind Kurama's legs and clutched tightly onto them. Kurama glared at Sirzechs. You saw how he acted with just you, didn't you? What were you thinking teleporting us into a room with 12 people who are total strangers to him? She asked angrily. Sirzechs scratched the back of his head. I didn't think about that, sorry, he said sheepishly. Kurama's eye twitched as she cocked her fist back and punched him in the face, sending him flying into a wall. You never think, you idiot! She shouted at him. Kurama crouched as she turned around to comfort Naruto, only to find him surrounded by everyone but 2 people. She saw Naruto about to have a panic attack and quickly snatched him from between them, holding him in her arms. Everyone out! She shouted. Naruto-sama is very shy and because of some things which happened in the past is not comfortable around a person he doesn't know, let alone 10 of them. I will call you all in your turn because Sirzechs isn't responsible enough, now out! She shouted. Everyone finally registered that Kurama was also in the room and then noticed that Naruto was shaking in her arms, clutching onto her hands very hard. After understanding what Kurama said and seeing the proof, everyone left. Sirzechs stood back up with a groan, holding his head in pain. Ouch, Kurama-chan, that hurt, he said as he slowly walked over to the child and his appointed servant. Yeah, well, you deserved it, look what you did to him, she said, gesturing to Naruto who she was still holding in her arms. Sirzechs just looked down in shame as he saw Naruto's condition. Just forget about it, go call your maid in here. I'll need her to get everyone back in here little by little, starting with your parents. She said and Sirzechs nodded. Oh, and by the way, she isn't just my maid, she's my queen and my wife. He said, puffing his chest out in pride. Kurama just waved him off. Whatever, just do what I told you to, she said, dismissing him very rudely. Sirzechs pouted in depression as a rain cloud appeared above his head. He dragged himself slowly towards the door of the office. You are so cold, he cried as he walked closer to the door. Kurama ignored him and continued to comfort Naruto, getting him to a point where he calmed down enough to stand by himself and be able to interact with people like usual in his shy ways. He was only able to interact so well with Kurama because he knew that she already knew what he had been through and still respected him. He wasn't too comfortable around Sirzechs, but because he cared enough to hide his scars and because Kurama was there, he was at least alright around the man. However, interacting with people which he didn't know as well as that his first experience with them was rather overwhelming was going to be a lot harder. Just then, the doors opened again and Sirzechs walked back in with 3 people. The first one was a beautiful young woman appearing to be in her early 20s with back-length silver hair that features a long braid on each side with small blue bows at the ends, while the rest is let down, which ends in twin braids and silver eyes. She wore a blue and white French-made outfit with long sleeves and a white-made headband over her head with red lipstick as a cosmetic accessory. The second person had the appearance of a middle-aged, handsome-looking man with long crimson-red hair that is tied in a loose ponytail with a black hairband. He has bright blue eyes and a short and red beard. He wore a white suit. The third and final person was a woman who appeared to be around her early 20s, though with the devil blood in her age didn't affect her appearance. She had short brown hair and violet eyes. She wore a white dress which reached all the way to her ankles. All 3 members of the leading Gremory, being the middle-aged man and the brown-haired woman as well as Sirzechs, stepped forward while the silver-haired woman remained next to the door. Sirzechs crouched down next to Naruto, his hand on the child's head. There is no reason to fear them. These are my parents, and the leaders of the Gremory clan, he said, pointing towards the 2 adults. Kurama placed her hand on Sirzechs' face and pushed him away, picking Naruto up into her arms. Let me introduce them to you. This is Zoeticus Gremory. He is Sirzechs' father, and the clan head of the Gremory clan. This is Venelana Gremory. She is Sirzechs' mother, and the matriarch of the Gremory clan. They both were great friends of Kushina-sama's even though they are quite a bit older than her. She introduced the people to Naruto. Naruto slowly nodded his head. Venelana stepped forward and smiled at Naruto, though not close enough to make him uncomfortable. Hello Naruto-kun, it's very nice to meet you. Kushina-chan was a great woman, and we all will do whatever we can to make sure you are just as good of a person and as strong of a fighter as she was, if not even better. When you start to feel more comfortable around us, you can come to me and I could teach you more about our world's powers, history, or anything you might want to know," she said warmly. Naruto narrowed his eyes at her, being reminded of some civilian in his past who offered to teach him and ended up knocking him out and torturing him. Vanillana was slightly taken aback. "Did I say something wrong? It seems like I made him upset," she asked towards Kurama. Kurama, having been inside of Naruto at the time of that event, shook her head and sighed. "It's not something you said, it's just that Naruto-sama was not very well treated back in his village, and you just brought up some bad memories. He will need some time to get to know you all in order to really be able to trust you," she explained, feeling bad for Naruto. Vanillana nodded her head sadly. "Well, when that time comes, I'll be happy to teach you whatever you want to learn. Just tell me whenever you are ready," she said. Zoeticus narrowed his eyes at Kurama. "Would you be so kind as to explain what you mean by not treated well?" he asked. Kurama looked at Naruto. "Do you mind if I explain?" she asked. Naruto looked up at her. "Do you trust them?" he asked, having no knowledge about what kind of people Zoeticus and Vanillana were. Kurama looked at the two for a second before they nodded. "Yes, I do," she said. Naruto nodded his head. "Alright, you trust them and I trust you. You can tell, but please, don't go into detail, it's painful to remember all of it. Also, please, no one else, at least not today," he said, almost whimpering in phantom pain which started to appear all over his body as he remembered some of the things he had been through. Kurama nodded as she pushed Naruto's face into her chest, rubbing his back. "Well, let's start with the night he was born," as he asked. "I won't go into too much detail, but I'll say just enough for you to understand the general picture. You come here too, Grafia?" as Naruto-sama asked. "I will not repeat myself again today, so you should listen too," she said before she walked over and sat on the wooden desk. The silver-haired woman, Grafia as Kurama called her, approached and stood next to Vanillana. "In the night Naruto-sama was born, I was sealed in Kushina-sama to support the life energy Naruto-sama was taking from her as he developed. As you all know, both Kushina-sama and Minato-sama were dying quickly, and so, in order for Kushina-sama to be able to live long enough to give birth, I was sealed into her so she could borrow my power," she explained, and the rest of the adults in the room nodded. "As Naruto-sama was being born, Kushina-sama was attacked. I was extracted from her, and the lack of my own energy instantly caused her death. However, that wasn't enough for the man who attacked. He placed an illusion on me and caused me to attack Konohagakure, which is where Minato-sama and Kushina-sama lived after they came to the elemental nations. I was only able to release the illusion partially after I leveled half of the village, and what caused me to be able to fight it was in order to kill Naruto-sama himself. The time I bought while fighting the control was enough for Minato-sama to summon the Shinigami, and sell his soul to him in exchange that he would seal me into Naruto-sama. After I was sealed, Minato-sama obviously died and Naruto-sama was left all alone. Because during my attack many people died, the people who liked those people who died were out for revenge. Seeing as Naruto-sama was the closest thing to me they took their anger out on him. As I was asked, I will not go into detail about his attacks, but I will show you the results," she said as she picked Naruto's head from her chest only to see him silently crying. She leaned down and kissed his forehead, remembering from before that he liked it. "Don't worry, Naruto-sama. It'll be alright, I promise you. This is just for them to understand what you have been through. I promise you that they will do nothing but help you with your problem," she said to him as she turned him around in her arms and pulled his shirt off. With a single snap of her fingers, Naruto's illusion dispelled and they could all see just how bad he was hurt. As Naruto felt everyone's gaze on his damaged body, he jumped out of Kurama's arms and hid behind her legs. Kurama handed him his shirt back and he quickly placed it on. He couldn't handle it, not right now. However, the few seconds the three could see his scars, they understood just why he was so sensitive and fearful. Those scars were not something most experienced fighters would have, let alone a 5-year-old child who had no combat experience. As Kurama placed the illusion back over Naruto, the three walked towards the door, understanding that Naruto would need some time before he would be comfortable to talk about his past with them. Just as they left, Vanillana spoke up. "Naruto-kun, I would like you to know that you are always welcome to come and speak to me if you want to talk about your past. Even if you just feel lonely, you are always welcome," she said, smiling back at him. "If you need anything, you can come to me, I'll make sure you get whatever you want," Grafia said, as the head maid, that was her job. Zoeticus also looked back at the small child. "I apologize for not being able to save you sooner. Someone like you should have never suffered the way you did," he said. Naruto didn't even look at the three. He leaned his back into Kurama's leg as he sobbed. Kurama looked at the leaving trio. "Please tell Lord and Lady Phoenix to wait a few minutes before entering and keep Naruto's past to yourselves," she said before she sat down on the floor next to Naruto, wrapping him up in her arms to try and comfort him. After 10 minutes, there was a knock at the door. Just after the knock, the door opened and Grafia poked her head into the room. "Is Naruto-sama feeling better? Can I call Lord and Lady Phoenix in?" she asked. Kurama took a glance at Naruto. "Let's get this over with as soon as possible," he whispered to Kurama, who nodded. "Bring them in," she said. Grafia nodded her head as she left for a few seconds before the doors were fully opened and two people walked in. The first man was very similar to Zoeticus in build. However, he had blonde hair and blue eyes. His hair was spiky like Minato's, but his body was more similar to Zoeticus with more of a bulky build. He also wore a red suit unlike Zoeticus's white one. The second person was a woman who looked to be in her mid-20s with blue eyes and blonde hair which was done up very high with ornate hair decorations. She wore a red dress with a V-cut which revealed her cleavage. Please don't kill me in the reviews. I checked and I have no idea what their names are, so I made them up. Also, I made up Lord Phoenix's description, so go with it. Kurama rubbed Naruto's hand as he sat in her lap. Naruto-sama, these are Lord Phoenix and Lady Phoenix. They are the clan head and matriarch of the Phoenix clan, and also, Lord Phoenix was Minato-sama's brother, which makes him your uncle, and with that, Lady Phoenix is your aunt. She explained, and Naruto slowly nodded. Lord Phoenix waved her off. There is no need to call us that, you are our nephew. My name is Kazuki Phoenix, and my wife's name is Hitomi Phoenix. Please feel free to call us by our names, he said with a smile. Sirzechs' face faltered. That's no fair, you two never even told me your names. Why can they call you by your names? I kept asking for your names, but you kept refusing my. I understand Naruto-kun as he is your family, but why Kurama-chan? He whined, pouting like a child. Kurama laughed at him, and even Naruto cracked a smile. Well, that's exactly why, because you act like a child. You will get to call me by my name when you grow up, Kazuki said, crossing his arms as he did so. Hitomi giggled at the two. There is no need to be like that, love, she said before turning back to Naruto. If Sirzechs ever annoys you too much, you are welcome to come over to the Phoenix Castle. You are always welcome there, she said, smiling. Naruto stoically looked at her as he considered her offer. After a little while, he nodded very slowly, accepting it just in case the members of the Gremory clan would ever turn on him like what happened to him every time. Hitomi sent him a thumbs up as she and her husband turned around. Hitomi suddenly stopped and turned around. I would like to apologize in advance for our son, Riser's behavior. He can be a little harsh, and sometimes he could even sound like a bully, though my eldest son, Rival, should keep him in line, so I can only hope he will behave well. If you feel the need for it, feel free to punish him if he does anything offending to Naruto-kun on purpose. I would only ask that you be gentle. He might need to learn a lesson, but please do not punish him too hard. Kurama-chan, I know how you tend to act, she said, scratching the back of her head sheepishly. Kurama nodded her head. I can promise that he would be punished if he were to offend Naruto-sama in any way. However, I can't promise that I will be gentle, she said as the two left the room. Once they were gone, Naruto looked up at Kurama. Do you think I will be okay? He asked weakly. Kurama nodded her head. Don't worry. I will do anything in my power to make sure you will stay comfortable and safe, she said, her arms squeezing him tightly into her. Just then, the door opened and 3 people walked in. The first was a teen around 14 years old. He, like the 3 other people, had blonde hair and blue eyes. He wore a white noble suit with a red tie. The second was a young child, around 9 years old. He had blonde hair and blue eyes. He wore a white buttoned shirt with the top button undone. He wore a red overshirt and red pants. The last person was a pretty young girl who looked to be around the age of 4 with dark blue eyes. She has long blonde hair tied into twin tails with large, drill-like curls and blue ribbons keeping them in place. The front of her hair has several bangs hanging over her forehead, with a V-shaped fringe hanging over the bridge of her nose. She wore a long pink dress with a ribbon over her chest. The 3 walked into the room. The eldest blonde teen and the little girl looked to be rather ecstatic to meet Naruto, while the middle child, Riser as Hitomi introduced him, was looking rather bored and like he would rather be anywhere else. Kurama stood up and gently placed Naruto onto his feet, standing a little in front of him to help him calm down a little bit. Kurama looked at the 3 children for a few seconds. Go on, introduce yourselves, she encouraged. The oldest stepped forward. Hello, Kurama-san, Naruto-san, it's a pleasure to meet you both. My name is Rival Phoenix, and I am the heir of the Phoenix clan. I would like to introduce my little brother, Riser, and my little sister, Ravel, he said. Riser grunted, looking at Kurama's rather developed assets instead of Naruto. However, Riser was totally ignored by everyone. Ravel, with the enthusiasm of a 4-year-old child, ran over to Naruto and grabbed his hand. She shook his hand with both of hers very enthusiastically. It's nice to meet you, Oniai-chan. I hope we can have lots of fun together, she said happily. Kurama went to get her off Naruto, assuming that Naruto would feel scared with his current position, but much to her shock, Naruto smiled and patted her head with his other hand. She hoped that Naruto would have an easier time connecting with children, as he didn't have many negative encounters with children, but she never expected him to become friendly with one just like that. I would like that. I mostly never get to have fun, let alone with someone my age, Naruto thought to himself. I would like to play with you sometime, Naruto said very quietly. Kurama smiled happily as she saw Naruto socializing with a person other than her. Sirzechs couldn't believe his eyes as he smiled as well. He never saw Naruto smile, not like that, and to think all it took was a child around his age. Sirzechs only hoped that Naruto would get along well with Rias too. Rival smiled happily as he walked towards the two. Naruto's smile quickly disappeared as he ran behind Kurama, Rival's size and older age having scared him. Rival was taken aback by such an action. He wondered if he did anything wrong. It's not your fault, Rival. Naruto-sama is simply intimidated by your larger size. He has got some pretty severe trauma from anything other than children. That is why he was comfortable around Revel and not you, Kurama explained, and Rival nodded in understanding, stepping back as he smiled at Naruto. I understand. I'll be here for you if you ever want to get over your trauma, he said kindly. Riser started to laugh as he pointed at Naruto. You are so pathetic. You dare call yourself a member of the Phoenix clan yet you act with such cowards? You should be ashamed. Riser didn't get to finish his sentence as Kurama appeared in front of him. Naruto's bag opened and one of the kunai he had there in her hand pointed at his throat. You should pick your next words carefully. One wrong word and you will be in the hospital for a very long time, she said coldly as she appeared in front of him. She would have simply killed him, but he was Ravel's brother, and she became Naruto's first devil friend, so she didn't want to upset the girl. Riser smirked up at her. You can try to kill me, but it wouldn't work. The members of the Phoenix clan are immortal, he said arrogantly. Kurama smirked down at him as her kunai light ablaze with blue flames. I have not one, but two ways to kill you right now. First, and the easiest way, is to simply stab you right now with my fire. Since your regeneration spell is based on fire, I can take over it with my own. As I'm sure you must know, the foxfire is the strongest flame in existence apart from the flames of Amaterasu herself. I can use my foxfire to simply take over your regeneration and kill you that way. Or I could seal away your magic, making you very much mortal. So again, I suggest you choose your next words carefully. If you dare insult Naruto-sama's consciousness, you will not live long. She finished, her glare scaring the child shitless. Roval and Ravel watched in amazement as their stubborn brother, the one who didn't even fear their parents, was genuinely afraid for his life. Nodding his head silently and stepping back, Kurama turned back and walked back to Naruto, the small child not responding as she picked him up into her arms and rubbed his back. She looked back at the three children. Ravel, I appreciate that you befriended Naruto-sama, and I will make sure he comes to see you later. For now, I would like the three of you to leave. Naruto-sama requires a break, she explained. Ravel and Ruvel accepted her words and left their room, dragging their scared brother out of the room. Kurama looked at Naruto's face. He was having flashes of the times he was abused and called pathetic. Told that he should be ashamed of being a monster, as he was abused, and the worst of all, being told that he was a monster so he shouldn't dare to call himself one of them, all the while he was tortured, beaten, and betrayed. Kurama rubbed his back soothingly. Naruto-sama, have you had enough for the day? Would you like to start your training and continue when you feel capable of it? She asked, and Naruto slowly nodded his head. Sure, anything but more people. I can't take any more today. I keep remembering those people back home acting all nice to get me to lower my guard before attacking. That was painful, both physically and mentally. I would like to clear my head with some training, he said, his voice almost robotic and emotionless. Kurama nodded her head as she felt bad for her master. You can also go rest if you want. I can come with you if you don't want to be alone. If you feel too tired to go train, you are very welcome to rest. You had a long night last night, running away from your village all night long, she said, but Naruto shook his head. I can't sleep right now. They will haunt my dreams. I need to distract myself with something else, he said. Kurama nodded her head. Alright then, let's go, she said, walking with Naruto in her hands towards the training grounds of the Gremory castle. She looked back at Sirzechs. Sorry. I would like for Naruto-sama to feel good when he meets the devils his age. It's best to have a delayed meeting between them rather than have a bad meeting where Naruto-sama would simply be scared, she said, and Sirzechs nodded. I understand. I'll tell Rias and her friends that they'll have to wait until Naruto's up to the task. Do your best in training, Naruto-kun, he replied, leaving the room through the door as the two jumped out of the window. Naruto and Kurama quickly made their way towards the training grounds. Kurama placed Naruto down on the ground gently and noticed that he was feeling a lot better. Kurama smiled as she cleared her throat. Alright, Naruto-sama. The first thing we would want you to learn will be magic, as by the time you turn 8 years old, when you get your evil piece set, your magic would be strong enough to turn me into your queen. However, for you to reach that level in time, you are going to need a different training method as the gap is too big for any normal method. Luckily, you have your chakra matured enough for it to unlock it quickly, so you will be able to use the training method your parents developed when they learned of this trick. Because of your devil blood, your chakra reserves are big since your physical and spiritual energies are both stronger, meaning you will be able to use this training method effectively. It'll only work for you because your chakra is already very close to awakening, meaning you can start soon. Kurama explained, and Naruto was already ecstatic to start training. He never knew why, but learning always made him feel better, no matter how he felt before. Kurama made a cross-fingered hand seal and a perfect clone of hers appeared next to her in a puff of smoke. Kurama pointed at her clone as she poked her clone's shoulder. As you can see, this clone is solid, meaning it is effective in combat, but more importantly, the clone transfers its memories back to you once it is dispelled. You can use that to learn how to use magic spells, to train your magic or chakra up to the level you would require, and so on. Now you see, I can only use my senjutsu chakra and I can use very little of it. However, you have plenty of chakra, meaning you can summon at least 200 clones at once. I hope you get where I'm going with this, she said. Naruto forgot all of his previous problems and nodded his head enthusiastically, a grin plastered onto his face. Kurama smiled at seeing Naruto so enthusiastic about something. Good, now let's start working on your chakra. I think that if you work hard enough, you would be able to master it within a week and get your magic up to the level of a normal devil your age within 2, she said, hyping Naruto up. Time skip. A week later, Naruto just finished learning how to walk on water using his chakra. It turned out that he was a genius at it. Naruto made the cross-fingered hand seal. Shadow clone jutsu, he said. A large puff of smoke appeared around him, and out of it came 100 clones. Kurama made 10 of her own clones, and had each of her clones take one Naruto clone. After the clones were gone, left to train either their magic or their chakra, Naruto was left with the original Kurama. Alright, Naruto-sama, you probably know it already but I'll say it anyway. Physical training is just as important as training your chakra or magic if not more. That's why while your clone works on magic and chakra, you will be training your physical body. You should know that a better built body which has more muscle to it as well as a healthy one, meaning someone who eats good things, is the body time which will attract more attention from the girls, she said. Naruto's interest was piqued. He, as a little child who was never exposed to a romantic relationship, was very innocent, so he, as a person who always wanted more attention as long as it was from far enough so that his personal space wasn't invaded, took that as Kurama saying he would get more friends. I'll do it. Let's get started, he said excitedly. Kurama was amazed by just how much different Naruto's personality was when he was training with her, and when he was around other people, even someone like Sirzechs. He was still just as shy around other people, but when he was alone with her, Naruto was just fine expressing his emotions, showing her just how great of a person he was when he was around someone which he trusted. Time skip. Another week later, Naruto just finished his training, his clones being able to control magic enough to unlock his wings. They were actually something special. At first, he sprouted the normal bat wings of the Gremory clan, but when the flames lit on fire, blue fire, Naruto and Kurama were thrown for a loop. Kurama theorized that it was a reaction of Naruto's Phoenix genes and his Kitsune Yukai genes, causing what was supposed to be normal firing wings to become the fire of the fox fire. Naruto smiled in excitement as he remembered the event. He was walking towards his room after finishing his shower. Suddenly, he ran into Rias. He had been avoiding Rias and her friends for the past 2 weeks, not wanting to get closer to anyone, fearing that what happened with Riser would happen again. As he was about to walk in a different direction, Rias ran up to him and stood in front of him. She looked down and looked to be rather embarrassed as she spoke. And Naruto-san, would you like to come watch some anime with me? I understand if you don't want to. I know it could be weird, at least that's what Akino, Sona and Tsubaki called it when I wanted them to watch with me. She was cut off when Naruto grabbed her hands. She had never seen Naruto acting in such a way, not even when she and her friends watched him train with Kurama. Naruto had stars in his eyes. You like anime too? He asked in shock, making Rias smile happily as she nodded her head. Yeah. I do, I love My Hero Academia. I think it's the best, she said. Naruto grinned at her as he started dragging her towards his room. I promise you that if you like My Hero Academia, you will love Black Clover even more. Let's go watch it in my room, he said enthusiastically. Rias raised an eyebrow. Black Clover? What is that? She asked curiously. Naruto opened the door of his room as he looked back at her. You'll see, he said. Rias shrugged as she walked into Naruto's room. Alright, I was going to let you pick anyways, she said. It was around 5 hours later that Kurama came back from training Naruto's clones when she found the two. Both Naruto and Rias were asleep, both sitting on Naruto's bed with an episode of Black Clover playing on the television. Rias had her head on Naruto's shoulder as her arms were wrapped around Naruto, a single arm of his wrapped around her shoulders. Only his anime can overpower his fears, Kurama mumbled to herself, a big smile creeping onto her face as she ran out of the room and called Sirzechs over, the two smiling happily as they watched Naruto and Rias hugging each other in their sleep. After Sirzechs was gone, Kurama shut the door and turned the television off. She removed her clothes as she usually did when going to sleep with Naruto before laying him and Rias together on the bed and getting in with the two, hugging Naruto from behind. Chapter 1. Can devils also know love? Naruto slowly opened his eyes as he awoke from his sleep. He had gotten used to sleeping with Kurama in the past few weeks, and he could say that it was the best feeling he ever had. The feeling of comfort and safeness she gave him was something he honestly only thought he could dream about. However, as he opened his eyes and saw a second pair of arms around his small body, he started to panic. However, just before he could sit up and run away, he saw Rias's face in front of his own. The sight of her face made him remember what happened last night, and he could help but grin happily. He had made another friend that he could trust, and she was a special one as she also liked to watch anime, just like him. He remembered how they both enjoyed watching Black Clover together. He remembered how they both sang the opening song together, and he remembered how Rias admitted it to be the best anime she had ever watched, even better than My Hero Academia, which used to be her favorite. Naruto relaxed his body, his eyes watching the two people he trusted in this world sleep peacefully. Finally, after around 5 minutes, Kurama opened her eyes. She rubbed her eyes before smiling up at Naruto. Good morning, Naruto-sama. I'm glad you were able to make a new friend, she whispered happily as she looked at the little Rias hugging Naruto tightly in her sleep. Naruto smiled and nodded his head. Yeah, she likes my anime. That already makes her into an awesome person for me, he said happily. Kurama smiled hearing Naruto speak so passionately about someone else. She pressed her naked chest into his side as she snuggled closer to the child. Kurama kissed Naruto on the cheek as she smiled. Would you like to take a day off training for today and spend your day with Rias instead? She asked. Naruto quickly shook his head. No way. I need to keep getting stronger. Plus, I can watch more anime with Rias after I'm done. I promise you that I'll become the strongest man to ever exist, and if I take a day off every time I get a new friend I'll never reach my goal, he said determinedly. Kurama smiled as she nodded her head. I understand. But if you ever need a day off, just ask for it. It's not good to do nothing but training, she explained. Naruto nodded back at her and the two went back into a comfortable silence, allowing Rias to sleep peacefully. It was 10 minutes later when Rias woke up. She was startled to find herself not waking up in her own bedroom but quickly relaxed, remembering the events of last night. She looked up and saw Naruto's face. The two smiled at each other. Good morning, Naruto-kun. I had a lot of fun last night, Rias said sleepily as she yawned cutely. Rias's yawn caused Naruto and Kurama to yawn as well. Me too. We should do it again tonight, he said happily, and Rias agreed with a nod. Kurama sat up, her naked chest jiggling as she did so. I'd better go ask Grafia to bring us breakfast. I'll be right back, Naruto-sama, she said, standing up off the bed in all of her naked glory. Rias gaped at her. And Naruto-kun? Why is your trainer in bed with us and why is she all naked? She asked in shock. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Well, you see, Kurama-chan is not just my trainer. She is my future queen, he said sheepishly, and I can't sleep with my clothes on. It's uncomfortable, she said, her tail sprouted out of her backbone and stretched. She lazily walked over to the closet and pulled out a set of her clothes, putting them on and leaving the room. Rias was still gaping at the woman. Forget it, Rias-chan. You'll get used to it eventually, just like I did, Naruto said, snapping her back to reality. Rias skeptically nodded her head. Sure, if you think I would, she said hesitantly. Naruto nodded his head happily as he sat up with her. He grabbed the remote for the television and turned said device on. Let's watch a few more episodes before I need to go back to training, he said excitedly, and Rias nodded her head. Alright, I'm excited to see what happens next, she said happily as she snuggled closer to Naruto, their favorite show playing on the television. After that day, Naruto had decided that he would start training like his hero, Asta, dedicating every moment he isn't eating or sleeping to physical training, something that was made possible for him without hurting himself due to the Phoenix clan's regeneration capabilities. The only time he was awake and not training was at night when he would rest up while watching anime with Rias, and occasionally, even Kurama would join them. Since that day, Rias hasn't slept in her room, saying, "Sleeping isn't the same without my blonde teddy bear," when she was questioned by her father. Both Zoeticus and Benelana found that adorable and allowed Rias to do as she pleased, the girl developing Kurama's habit of sleeping naked. Not that she had any self-awareness about her body, being 5 years old, and all. It was a week later, though, that Naruto was introduced to Rias's queen, Akino, who decided to try getting to know Naruto more by joining her king and him to their nightly anime watching. It was around 9 p.m. and as usual, Naruto sat on his bed with Rias leaning against him from his right, her head resting on his shoulder. The two have already finished Black Clover and decided to watch something else. Rias has insisted that Naruto watch My Hero Academia with her, even though he told her that he already watched that. She said that it was something she wanted to watch with him, and Naruto agreed, having nothing better to do. Just as they were about to start the first episode, the two heard a knock at the door. Knowing Kurama was out with his clones, Naruto had no idea who could be at the door. "Rias-chan, Naruto-kun, it's Akino. Can I come in?" Rias's future queen asked from outside the door. Naruto looked at Rias for a second, and he could only thank her in his heart. Naruto has gotten a lot less scared around new people ever since he became good friends with Rias, the girl being someone he almost practiced on when trying to be less shy around new people. "Come in," he said, taking a calming breath before he did. He was just glad it was only Akino and not any of the older people, seeing as his practice with Rias, along with his lack of major trauma from children, made it possible for Naruto to interact with Akino with mostly no problem. The little girl opened the big door and stepped into the room, the door closing behind her. She smiled at seeing Naruto's position with Rias as she stepped forward. "Do you mind if I join you too? I would like to get to know Naruto-kun better, so I want to see what you both like so much about this," she explained. Naruto and Rias looked at each other for a moment before they turned back to Akino and nodded together. "Sure. Come sit down with us. We were just about to start a new series," Naruto said, petting the empty space to his left. Akino nodded happily as she sat to Naruto's left, leaning back into the pillows. Unlike Rias, they played a few episodes of the show, and Akino started to like the show a little. However, without either Naruto or Rias noticing, she moved closer to Naruto little by little until finally, she leaned into his left side and placed her head on his left shoulder. Naruto stiffened at the touch, but after recognizing that it was like Rias's own, he relaxed, not saying a thing. Rias glared at her queen, to which Akino simply stuck her tongue out at her. The two girls each grabbed one of Naruto's hands, hugging it as they leaned into him, each trying to have more of Naruto to herself. Rias actually wanted more of Naruto to herself as she started to like him a lot, maybe a little more than simple friends. However, Akino simply wanted to be better than Rias. She didn't know Naruto enough to actually want him to herself, but she could admit that what Rias said about Naruto being a good cuddling partner was very much true. Kurama came into the room around an hour later and found the three sleeping, Rias and Akino competitively trying to take more space on top of Naruto's body for themselves. She laughed lightly, happy that her master was able to make another friend using his anime. Or perhaps it was using Rias? It didn't matter. Kurama, like always, removed her clothes after closing the door, gently moving the girls so that Akino would be holding Naruto's left arm with her whole body, her arms and legs wrapped around it as she clutched onto it. She moved Rias to on top of Naruto, the girl's head resting on his chest as she did so. Finally, Kurama laid down on Naruto's right, her head on his right shoulder, and his arm hugged tightly into her chest. If Naruto were to hit puberty, he would probably die when he woke up. It was only lucky that he was so innocent. As the years went by, Naruto got closer and closer to Rias, Kurama, and Akino. Rias finally understood that her love for Naruto wasn't a love someone has for a friend but that which you would have towards your romantic partner, though she stayed quiet about it, fearing to lose her close friend if he didn't feel the same way. Akino has developed feelings of her own for Naruto, loving him as a person even more than she liked teasing Rias about how she herself would be the one who ended up with Naruto, instead of her. The two became something of rivals for Naruto's love, both girls knowing about each other's feelings for Naruto, and doing their best to make Naruto love them more than the other. Kurama too started to see Naruto more as a man rather than the helpless child she needed to protect. His loving, innocent and determined personality, along with his fit body and incredible power, made her feel attracted to him, even though she was a few dozens of years older than him. She was very happy with Naruto's progress, his magical training going well to a point where he could almost rival her in pure magical power, and his physical training going even better, the result being his strong, almost perfect body and incredible physical strength. All of that by the time he was 8 years old. The only thing imperfect about his body is its age. He needed a few years to reach his prime, and then he would become an unstoppable force that would be able to defeat anything and anyone who stands in his way. Around a week after Naruto met Akino, he was introduced to Sona and Tsubaki by Rias and Akino. Sona and Tsubaki had been nice to Naruto, but still found his shyness quite weird. However, instead of assuming he was simply weird, the two decided to simply become friends, not too close but still friends, and not judge Naruto until they knew what the reason for his shyness was, and Naruto was alright with being just friends. Naruto still hasn't shown his scars to anyone. In fact, he never took either his shirt or pants, even when he slept with 3 naked girls on top of him, and no matter how hot or uncomfortable it was for him, he was scared that people would judge him and not like him anymore if they knew about his past. Today was Naruto's 8th birthday, and he was getting his evil piece set from Sirzechs and Venilana today. Naruto stood on the grass in the front yard of the Gremory castle. In front of him stood Sirzechs and Venilana, both of which Naruto had gotten used to being around, and so he was alright with them being so close to him. Sirzechs held a chessboard in his hands as he held it out to Naruto. Take it, Naruto. This is your very own set of evil pieces. Once you open this board, the king piece would be absorbed into you and the rest of the pieces would be bound to you. Create a peerage of powerful people and use your amazing power to do good for this world, he said, smiling proudly at Naruto. Naruto nodded his head as he took the board from the man. He opened the board and 16 pieces flew out. There was a king, a queen, 2 rooks, 2 knights, 2 bishops, and 8 pawns. The king piece floated over to Naruto and went straight into his chest, the piece being absorbed instantly. Naruto's eyes widened as he felt the king's power boost, making his magic more powerful. A few seconds later he calmed down, able to get his energy under control. Naruto grabbed the rest of the chess pieces and put them in a storage seal which Kurama taught him how to make on his wrist. In his arms was still the queen piece, and with it, he turned around to see Kurama kneeling in front of him. Naruto grinned as he put 2 fingers on her forehead and pushed her onto her back on the grass. For this, you need to be laying down. You were the one who told me that, he said, deadpanning a little. Kurama chuckled lightly at him as he walked over and kneeled next to her. He placed the queen piece on her chest, right between her breasts, and stood back up. He called upon his magic, using what he got from the king's power boost as well, and created a magical circle under Kurama. I, Naruto Gremory Phoenix, hereby order your rebirth as a devil of my peerage. You shall serve me as my queen until the day either one of us dies, he declared, the magical circle enveloping Kurama from under her and making her glow red, the queen piece being absorbed into her chest. After the glow died down, Kurama stood up and bowed to Naruto. Thank you for doing this for me, Naruto-sama. She thanked as she straightened up. Suddenly a pair of bat wings appeared out of her back and then the wings were enveloped by blue fire. I see, so my peerage gets my own wings, Naruto said as Kurama returned her wings to her back. Naruto-sama, may I speak with you in private? She suddenly asked him. Naruto looked at Sirzechs and Venilana as he nodded, following Kurama back into his bedroom. I think it's time, she said, and Naruto looked at her in confusion. It's time to get rid of your trauma, she said, making Naruto's eyes widen. You want to tell me that there was a way to get rid of it this whole time and you didn't tell me? He asked in shock. Kurama sadly shook her head. Yes, there was. However, you yourself said that you weren't ready to do it before. My theory is that you are afraid mostly of betrayal and rejection. I want you to show your scars to Rias and Akino. After you see that they are still going to stay your friends, your mind should accept the fact that you have true friends now, and you'll stop being afraid. She explained. Naruto closed his eyes. I really don't know if I'm ready. I really like Rias-chan and Akino-chan, so if they reject me I have no idea what I would do, he said sadly. Kurama wrapped Naruto in an embrace from behind him. I'll always be here for you so you have nothing to worry about, she said cheerfully, kissing Naruto on his whiskered cheek. Naruto slowly nodded his head. Alright, if you think it will help then I'll do it, he said quietly, mentally preparing himself for what was about to happen. Kurama smiled. Good. You can prepare yourself, I'll go call them, she said before running off. Naruto started taking deep, calming breaths, trying to relax his nerves. Not even 5 minutes later, Kurama came back, dragging Rias and Akino behind her. Kurama pushed the two into the room and closed the door behind them, walking over to Naruto to provide support just in case he needed it. Alright, Rias-chan, Akino-chan, there's something I need to show you both. I have been too afraid for the past 3 years to show you, but I think now it's time, he said, breathing out a deep sigh as he removed his shirt. Rias and Akino blushed at seeing his naked torso, something which they never saw before. I honestly don't know why you were so afraid. You look great, Rias complimented. Naruto shook his head. This isn't what I wanted to show you both. What I wanted to show you is this, he said, inhaling a deep breath as he ran through a few hand seals. He had remade his illusion with chakra so that devils won't be able to sense it. Naruto held the last hand seal, which was the tiger seal, as he exhaled and puffed into smoke. As the smoke cleared, Naruto's true form appeared, his left eye closed to show the scar even though it was still working. He looked down at his body, his burned hands, slashed and stabbed torso, and the signs of the pitchfork he was impaled on there, bringing up painful memories, though Naruto pushed those memories away. Here you have it. The real Naruto Gremory Phoenix with no disguise. I understand if you don't want to be friends with me anymore, he said sadly. Suddenly Naruto was tackled back onto his bed by two very emotional girls, both of whom cried on his shoulders and tried their best to comfort him and make him feel good. Rias looked up from Naruto's shoulder onto his face. She had some tears in her eyes as she leaned forward. I don't and will never think bad of you, Naruto-kun. I love you, she said as she leaned further in and captured Naruto's lips with her own, her lips resting on his own for a few seconds before she leaned back and smiled at Naruto. Akino pouted at her friend. That's not fair, Rias, I love him too. I wanted to take his first kiss, she said as she gave Naruto a kiss of her own. Kurama subconsciously pouted at having Naruto's first kiss be taken away by Rias, and not her, but smiled as she watched the two do exactly what Naruto needed them to do. Naruto laid frozen on his bed, trying to process what just happened. You saw what I truly look like, and instead of hating me, you love me? Why would you love me? I am just a damaged child, he asked, mostly to himself but a little expecting an answer from Rias and Akino. Akino giggled lightly. Well, at first, I was only hanging out with you as a competition between me and Rias, making her jealous of your love for another girl. However, after I saw just what kind of person you really are behind your shyness, I fell in love with you. You are a great person, Naruto-kun, and that is apart from your handsome face and great power, she explained. Rias nodded her head. Yeah. Akino is right. At first, I only saw you as someone to watch my anime with, so I won't be alone doing so. However, after a few days of hanging out with you, I saw just what an amazing person you are, and not only did I fall in love with you, I started to admire you. You remind me a lot of Asta. You might be a little dense sometimes, but you are a great person who would do anything for his friends. She added her part. Naruto looked at the two with tears in his eyes. You really mean that? He asked, his voice cracking. Both girls nodded their heads, answering his question. Naruto slightly turned his head and looked at Kurama. I love you as well, just as much as I do Rias-chan and Akino-chan, he said silently. Kurama smiled at Naruto as she walked over and sat in front of him. I love you too, Naruto-sama. However, I am your servant, and it should stay that way. I am not good enough for someone such as you, she said. Naruto grinned his typical grin as he leaned forwards, and like Rias and Akino did to him, he placed his lips on Kurama's own and enjoyed the feeling before leaning back a few seconds later. Don't even think about saying such a thing again, he said, smiling happily. Kurama nodded her head as a single tear of joy came to her eye, quickly wiping it away as she smiled and leaned forward into Naruto, her chin resting on his naked shoulders. Just like that, after removing their clothes, Rias, Akino, and Kurama all joined Naruto in bed as he told the younger girls more about his childhood. When it was finally time to sleep, Kurama was the one laying on top of Naruto. She kissed him on the lips as Rias and Akino kissed his cheeks from each of his sides. Happy birthday, Naruto-kun/Naruto-sama, the three said together as they all got into their sleeping moods. Time skip. The next morning, Naruto woke up feeling better than ever. He opened his eyes to the normal scene of the girls he loved sleeping all over him. However, unlike usual, His shirt was nowhere to be found and his illusion was removed. It felt so good to him knowing that the girls he loved not only not hated him for how he really was but even loved him, and still did after seeing his true body. He silently waited for the girls to wake up, smiling happily as he watched them sleep. One by one the girls woke up, greeting Naruto with pecks on his lips as they did. After the girls were all awake, Kurama went and asked Gremory to get them some breakfast. Once she came back, she sat in front of Naruto. "Are you ready for the next step, Naruto-sama?" she asked. Naruto raised an eyebrow. "Next step?" he asked curiously. Kurama nodded her head. "Yes. Rias and Akino are both people you love and trust, so it was relatively easy to share your past with them. However, in order to get rid of your shyness for good, you are going to need to be comfortable with people you do not trust as much as you do the three of us. The next people we should reveal to you are Sona and Tsubaki, both of which you are already slightly familiar with," she explained, and Naruto nodded his head. "I don't feel as bad showing my scars and telling them about my past as I did Rias and Akino, simply because I do not fear losing them, seeing as I'm already not that close to them. Plus, I don't really need anyone but you three," he said happily, newfound confidence building up inside of him. Kurama smiled. "That's good to know. If only having Rias and Akino accept you is giving you that much confidence. People you know less should give you a lot more confidence when they accept you," she said. "That's if they do," Naruto said. Rias patted his back. "Don't worry, Sona and Tsubaki are good people. They both will accept you quickly," she encouraged Akino, nodding her acceptance to her words. Naruto smiled. "All right. You are welcome to call them over so they can eat breakfast with us," he said. Rias and Akino nodded their heads, dressing back in their clothes and going out of the room to call Sona and Tsubaki. Meanwhile, Kurama went to ask Gremory to get food for Sona and Tsubaki as well. Finally, after around 10 minutes, everyone was back in the room. Naruto sat on his bed, his torso bare and his illusion turned off, Rias and Akino sitting to his sides while Kurama sat behind him, her body pressed into his back to comfort him. Sona and Tsubaki were confused at first, but when their eyes laid on Naruto's body, they were at a loss for words. The two filed off the fact that Naruto's body was very well built and very attractive and focused on the scars he had, trying to find a way for them to be caused and coming up with none. Naruto shrugged Kurama off his back and stood up, walking over and sitting next to the table in his room where everyone's breakfast was. Kurama, Akino, and Rias quickly followed him, sitting around the table and starting to eat. After a few seconds, Naruto spoke up. "If you don't come soon your food will get cold," he said, smiling weakly at the two young devils. Sona and Tsubaki looked at each other before going over and sitting down next to the table. "You two must be wondering what could have caused me to have such scars at such a young age," Naruto said, to which Sona and Tsubaki nodded. He sighed. "That's actually the reason we called you over. I have had those scars since the day I came here. I had a very bad trauma from the abuse I suffered at the hands of the villagers back in my home village of Konohagakure, which was the reason for my shyness and the reason for my fear of older people. I showed my scars to Akino and Rias yesterday, wanting to slowly try and get over my trauma. However, it went better than expected and they both accepted me very quickly. We decided to move on to the next step and tell my past to people I don't know as well as I do Rias and Akino, those people being you two," he explained, taking a bite out of his food as he finished. "If you would listen, I would like to tell you about my life before I came here, and after I am done I would like to know your honest feelings about the matter. There is no point in lying to me as I can detect such an act. I would like you to tell me your true feelings about me after you hear what kind of person I really am, whether they are good or bad," he explained, to which both girls nodded their heads. "I would love to hear about what you have been through so far if you wouldn't mind telling me. Also, I apologize for thinking you were weird. As I knew it before, I only knew that you were shy, and without knowing the reason why, I thought you were kind of weird," Sona said apologetically. Tsubaki nodded to her words. "I too am very sorry for assuming there was no reason behind your actions, and would be honored to hear what you have had to withstand in order to make it to this day," she said. Naruto smiled very happily. "I accept your apologies. It's nothing to worry about. You feel sorry for it, and that is all that matters. Though we might want to finish our breakfast first before I tell you, it might get you a little uncomfortable," he said seriously. They all quickly finished the food before moving to Naruto's bed, where they all sat comfortably, listening to Naruto's harsh life story. Once Naruto was done, he was tearing up with happy tears as he was already hugged by both devil girls who were crying at his story. He didn't need to hear how they felt about him. He simply knew from the emotion they expressed that the two accepted him and felt sorry for him. He was very surprised to see the normally emotionless Sona acting in such an emotional way, but he guessed that his story was just a little too rough for her to keep her emotional mask on. He kept the two in his arms as they cried, him comforting them instead of the other way around. Kurama, Rias, and Akino smiled at the scene, all happy to see Naruto regaining his confidence. The two calmed down after around 10 minutes. "I'm happy to see that you both accepted me. I'd love to get to know you both better now that I feel like I can trust you," he said happily. Both Sona and Tsubaki nodded their heads, signaling that they would love to get closer to Naruto. As the days went by, Naruto became more and more comfortable walking around the castle with his illusion released. It was around 1 week later when Naruto decided that it was time to show himself to his family with his illusion removed. He, along with Kurama, teleported through a magical circle into Kazuki's office, wanting to see him first. However, when Naruto saw the whole leading family of the Phoenix clan in the office, the two were slightly surprised. Revel, Hitomi, and Kazuki all ran over to Naruto in concern, seeing a slash on his face and burns on his hands. What happened to you? Hitomi asked in concern. Naruto waved them off as he smiled. Don't worry. Until now, I've been under an illusion to hide my scars which I got back in Konoha. I am trying to overcome my trauma, so I need to start getting more comfortable with people around me. I came here to tell you all about what happened to me back in Konoha, he explained. The four nodded as they stepped away from him slightly, having started to check him out for anything dangerous. Riser laughed. How pathetic. A member of the Phoenix clan having burned scars, he said. Kurama went to hurt him, but Naruto held his hand out, stopping her. He turned back to the rest of the family with a smile. Anyways, what are you all doing here? He asked casually, having expected everyone to be dealing with their own business. Kazuki showed Naruto the paper which he was about to sign. Our elders and the elders or the Gremory clan had made a marriage contract between the heiress of the Gregory clan and one of the children of the leading family in the Phoenix clan. Seeing his rival refused, we will be signing Riser to it, he explained, and everyone could feel the room temperature dropping. Naruto looked at him with a blank face. What? He whispered very quietly. His eyes started to glow blue as a slit appeared in the middle of them, his dormant Kitsune Yukai genes awakening in a moment of total rage. No! Rias is with me and I won't let anyone take her away from me, especially not him, he shouted, pointing at Riser. Most of them were taken aback by his sudden moment of rage. However, Riser didn't back down. Oh yeah, and what are you going to do about it? He asked tauntingly. I will do whatever it takes. As someone who is also a member of the Phoenix clan's leading family, I challenge you to a battle for the contract, Naruto said, his rage overriding his shyness and fears. Before the two could start fighting, Kazuki stepped between them and Kurama wrapped her arms around Naruto, calming him down slightly. That's enough. There will be no fight at the moment, Kazuki said. However, Naruto-kun is correct. He also has the right to the contract, and as such, you two will eventually fight. However, your fight won't be one-on-one. I want you both to take 10 years, until Naruto's 18th birthday, to gather up a peerage, and then on said day, you will settle the winner of the contract in a rating game, he declared. Naruto closed his eyes and thought for a second before he nodded his head. If he had 10 whole years to train, he could take down Riser's whole peerage on his own, so it was fine with him. Riser smirked. You can give him however much time you want, he will never defeat me. I agree to the terms, he said. Kazuki nodded. Good. Now Riser, you are welcome to stay here and listen to Naruto's story, but if you have the nerve to make a comment like you usually do, the contract goes to Naruto-kun. You are also welcome to leave. He finished and Riser grumbled, walking away. After Riser was gone, Revel walked up to Naruto. Please don't tell Riser Onaikan, but I would much rather be on your peerage over his own. He is planning to make me into his bishop when I turn 8 years old, but I want to be your bishop instead. Would you turn me into yours before he can? She asked hopefully. Naruto smiled as he nodded his head and patted her own. Don't worry about it. I promise I'll turn you before he can, just like I would save Rias-chan from him, he said happily. Revel squealed in happiness. Thank you, Naruto Onaikan, she said happily. Naruto then went on to tell the family about his past, not speaking about his more painful experiences as Revel was there, and he didn't want to scare her. Time skip. Later that day, Naruto and Kurama came back to the Gremory castle through another teleportation circle. Kurama-chan, please go with my clones to train. We are going to need to start training even harder now. I would like to go tell Rias on my own, he said, and Kurama nodded in understanding. Naruto made a cross-fingered hand seal and around 1,000 puffs of smoke appeared around them. Out of the smoke appeared magical circles, Naruto's clones having already teleported to the training field so that Naruto could spawn more clones. Kurama kissed Naruto good luck before she disappeared as well, going after his clones. Naruto walked silently towards his room where Rias probably was as he prayed that she won't hate him for not asking her before jumping into the marriage contract as he did. He made it to his room and opened the door, finding Rias there as he expected with Akino. He walked into the room and smiled sheepishly at the two. Akino-chan, would you mind giving me some time to talk with Rias in private? I have something she needs to know and I'm not sure she'll be too happy about it, he said. Akino quickly understanding that a pissed-off Rias would be bad for anyone to be around, with Naruto having the highest chance of survival, being the person she loved. Rias raised an eyebrow as she watched Akino peck Naruto on his lips for good luck and leave the room, the door shutting behind her. Naruto sat on the bed, Rias sitting next to him. I'm sorry, he said apologetically. Rias looked at him curiously. What for? She asked. Naruto lowered his head. I went to visit my family back at the Phoenix clan compound a few hours ago, and I couldn't be happier that I have done so, though I don't know how happy you would be to hear what I found out, he said, looking at her again. Well, don't keep me waiting, she said expectantly. Naruto gulped. The elders of the Phoenix clan and the elders of the Gremory clan created a marriage contract between you, the heiress of the Gremory clan, and one of the members of the leading family of the Phoenix clan. he said, and Rias looked at him in horror. What's worse is that Roval said that you were too young for him and refused, leaving you with Riser. He finished and watched as Rias's eyes were filled with tears. He wrapped her in his arms. When I heard about it, I got so angry that I didn't even think, let alone ask you for permission, he said, and Rias looked at him in confusion. I challenged Riser to a fight for the contract, using my status as a part of the Phoenix leading family, he said, lowering his head. Naruto suddenly found himself on his back on top of the bed with Rias on top of him, her arms wrapped around him and their lips connected. You really challenged Riser for me? Did you win? She asked hopefully. Naruto was shocked by her sudden happiness before he smiled, realizing that Rias was alright with what he did. Yeah, I challenged him. But before I could kick his ass for you, Kazuki stopped us, giving us 10 years to train and gather up a strong peerage before we battle in a raiding game for the contract. I've already sent twice the clones I normally would send to train with Kurama, so I'm going all out with my training. There's no way in hell I'm losing you, especially not to Riser, he said determinedly. Rias smiled. Thank you so much, Naruto-kun. I'm sure you'll become so much stronger than you will be able to defeat Riser's whole peerage on your own. Also, being your wife in the future doesn't sound too bad, she said happily, blushing as she thought of being married to Naruto. Naruto looked at her for a few seconds before he fainted. The thought of being married, let alone to someone he loved like Rias, being too overwhelming for him. Rias went to see if he was alright only for Naruto to jump up, fully conscious once again. I can't afford to faint now. I can sleep at night, but right now, I need to train, he shouted, pumping his fist. Rias giggled as she watched her love run over to her. The two shared a short kiss before he ran off out of the room to train. Rias stood up and went to search for her queen, wanting to tell her that she was already going to be married to Naruto, unlike Akino herself, already able to imagine how jealous Akino would be. Time skip. 2 months later, Naruto was, as most of the time, training. He was currently holding himself upside down on nothing but the index and middle fingers of his right hand. He quickly started to do a set of 10 push-ups like this before he moved on to his second arm. Just as he changed to his second arm, Kurama appeared in front of him in a magical circle. Hey Kurama-chan, do you need anything? He asked as he went down, his muscles flexing as he pushed. Kurama watched Naruto's naked torso as he worked, the muscles of his body shining with the sunlight and the sweat. She snapped out of her admiration as Naruto finished his set, jumping back to his feet. In fact, I do. Rias asked that both myself and you be present back at the castle. She said that there was someone she wanted to show us, but she refused to say who. Kurama explained. Naruto nodded his head as he wiped his body off with a towel before putting his shirt back on. Alright, let's go. Rias-chan could be scary when she is angry, so we better not keep her waiting, he said, and Kurama nodded her head. Naruto walked over next to Kurama and they both were enveloped by a magic circle, instantly teleporting them over to the Gremory castle. As the two arrived, they walked in, going around the castle in search of Rias. The two ended up finding her in Naruto's room, something which they should have expected. Naruto walked into the room with Kurama following closely behind him. They saw Rias sitting on Naruto's bed with another girl sitting next to her. The girl was small, looking to be around 5 years old. She had white hair and golden eyes. She wore a white formal robe that covered her skin well, showing really nothing but her arms. Rias smiled as she saw Naruto and Kurama. Said people looked at the small girl as if there was something wrong with her. She's another yokai, isn't she? Naruto asked. A Nico yokai to be specific, Kurama answered. Rias nodded her head. Yes. Koneko-chan is a Nico yokai but is also my rook. I wanted her to get to know you both and to see if Kurama-chan can maybe help her with her yokai power, she said hopefully. Kurama took a few seconds to think before she nodded her head. I can have a clone do it. Seeing as I'm already busy with overseeing Naruto-sama's clones while they train, however, I'm not sure how much I can help her with her Nico ability. Seeing as it's just it is only for Nico yokai to use, like my fox fire. All I can do is try to help her with gaining the ability to use Senjutsu chakra like me and then control said chakra, she explained. Rias nodded her head. That's enough for now. Thank you, she said. Naruto walked over and crouched next to the girl who had been looking at the three with a blank expression on her face. He smiled gently as he reached for her with his hand. It's nice to meet you, Koneko-san. I and Kurama-chan are great friends of Rias's, so I hope we can get along, he said happily. Koneko just stared at him emotionlessly. Rias walked over and placed a hand on Naruto's shoulder. She had a little bit of a rough time lately, so give her some time, she said, to which Naruto nodded. Alright then, Koneko-san, please come over whenever you need to talk. I could share my own past with you if you would like to hear. I believe you might be able to sympathize with me. I'll be going back to training now, so I'll see you girls later, he said with a wave as he disappeared into a magical circle, Kurama following closely behind. Once they were both gone, Koneko spoke quietly. He seemed nice. What was his name? She asked Rias with a monotone voice. The red-haired girl smiled. His name is Naruto Gremory Phoenix, she answered. Happy Koneko took a liking to Naruto. Time skip. 6 months later. It was around 2 a.m. and Naruto was still awake, sitting on his bed cross-legged with Koneko curled up in his lap, much like a normal cat. In the past 6 months, Koneko has gotten very close to Naruto and Kurama. The girl has started training with Kurama after Naruto gained her trust by telling her about his past. From there, she quickly became very clingy of Naruto, only leaving his side when he went somewhere else without Rias, the person she was kind of bound to. She had gotten the habit of sleeping in his lap, curled up like a real cat, or on his stomach when he was laying down. Seeing that it meant one of the girls had to give up her spot sleeping on top of Naruto while he slept with two of the others to his sides, Akino had taken it upon herself to sleep between Naruto's legs. She had said that she was closer to the prize that way, something that Naruto obviously didn't understand. He was very confused to see Rias and Kurama getting angry at such an action, but shrugged it off as a girl's thing. As he sat with Koneko in his lap, Rias, Akino and Kurama were sitting around him, while Revel walked around back and forth, looking at the clock present in Naruto's room expectantly. Finally, the clock turned 2:12 a.m. and Revel stopped in place. "Alright, you can do it now," she said towards Naruto. Naruto nodded as he placed his hand on Kaneko's own. "Kaneko-chan, please let me stand up for a second," he said kindly. She grumbled as she got up and rolled off Naruto's lap onto the bed. Naruto smiled as he got up. He walked over to where Revel laid on the ground and placed one of his bishop pieces on her chest. "I, Naruto Gremory Phoenix, hereby order your rebirth as a devil of my peerage. You shall serve me as one of my bishops until the day either one of us dies," he said, a magical circle appearing under Revel and enveloping her. After the circle was gone, Revel sat up. "This is amazing. I feel like my magic feels like it is like 4 times stronger," she said in amazement, flaring her wings out only to find that she no longer had her normal red flaming wings. She had Naruto's bat-like Gremory wings, which were enveloped by the blue flames of the fox fire. Naruto smiled as he patted her head. "That is great. Now you can start training to control your magic better so you would use it more effectively," he said happily. Time skip. The next morning, Naruto, Revel, and Kurama teleported over to the Phoenix compound, dropping Revel home. Just as the two went to leave back to the Gremory castle, in front of them appeared Riser Phoenix out of a teleportation circle. "So you finally came back from your sleepover with that sorry excuse to a Phoenix clan member?" he asked arrogantly as he looked at his sister. "That sorry excuse for a Phoenix clan member is standing right here," Naruto deadpanned. Riser sneered at him. "I didn't speak to you," he said, his tone filled with venom. He took a step towards Revel. "Now come on, you got the honor of becoming a member of my peerage," he said arrogantly. Naruto stepped between him and Revel. "I don't think so. Revel-chan is already a member of my own peerage," he said, smirking tauntingly at Riser. Riser glared at his sister. "Is that true?" he asked angrily. Revel shyly nodded her head as her new wings flared out of her back. "How dare you! You dare pick him over me! You got the honor to join the peerage of the man who will rule over every single world, yet you had the nerve to decline?" he roared in pure anger, throwing a punch towards Naruto. Naruto easily caught his punch, and again, just before a fight could break out between the two, someone showed up to stop it. "That's enough, Riser. Revel had picked Naruto over you because of her own personal reasons, and you have no say in the matter," Revel said as he appeared next to the four. Naruto released Riser's punch and turned around, patting Revel's head. "Don't fear him. Riser is all bark and no bite. Revel and I can easily defeat him, and he will keep you safe while I'm not around," he said happily. Revel nodded happily as she ran behind her elder brother. Revel nodded towards Naruto. "You can leave now, Naruto-kun, she will be safe with me," he said, Naruto nodding before he and Kurama left. Riser growled to himself as he walked away, knowing very well that he didn't stand a chance against his elder brother. Chapter 2, Expanding the Peerage. After Naruto turned Revel into his bishop, he, along with Rias, Akino, Sona, Tsubaki and even little Koneko, continued to do their hardest in training, becoming stronger and stronger with every day. Quickly, 5 years had passed and Rias finally got her first mission. Of course, Naruto got his own first mission before Rias did, since after all, he was a lot stronger than her. However, his missions were easy and nothing special came out of them. When Rias turned 13, she got her first mission and was sent to the overworld where the humans lived because there was some supernatural being that caused problems in a town. When Rias returned, she told Naruto and Sirzechs that it was just a child vampire-human hybrid that had been left in the town alone, and started stealing food to fix his hunger. She said that she made him into her bishop after witnessing his ability to stop time in his field of vision as long as he wasn't using it on anyone stronger than him by a lot, which was how Rias was able to come close to him. His ability simply didn't work on her since she was so much stronger than him. She introduced the little hybrid as Gasper to Naruto and Sirzechs, and the two were shocked to see the child that Rias claimed to be male dressed up in girl's clothing, but after confirming with him, they let it go and allowed him to dress however he wanted. Just like that, more than 4 years had passed. Rias and Sona were already 18 years old and Naruto was only a few months away from 18 himself. Everyone but Riser already acknowledged Naruto as the strongest, surpassing even Kurama, Sirzechs, Sirzechs and Kazuki in strength, mana reserves, spells, mana control, strength and everything else. However, the only thing he was inferior to them in was experience. Sure, he might have combat experience, but he didn't have any experience in being in the spotlight, or in politics, so he left the positions of Satan or clan head for Sirzechs, Sirzechs and Kazuki respectfully and took missions from them like any normal member of the Gremory/Phoenix families would. Now that Rias was 18 years old already, she was going to be sent to the overworld to keep her own territory and search for more members for her peerage. Of course, Naruto's first reaction was to join her, as she was going there for at least a few years and she was taking not only her peerage with her but she was also taking Sona and her peerage with her. Of course, Sirzechs didn't mind and allowed him to go. However, just before the group left, Sirzechs received a mission that only Naruto and Kurama could complete. Rias and the girls that went away were saddened by this, but they knew Naruto would soon join them, so they left at ease. Naruto sent Ravel with them over to the human world as his representative there to search for potential humans that could be of use to him, while he and Kurama went to get the mission from Sirzechs. In Sirzechs' office, a knock on the door was just heard. "Come in," Sirzechs called from behind his desk. The door was opened to show a 17, nearly 18 years old Naruto with Kurama following behind him. Naruto has grown up into an amazingly handsome young man. He had shoulder-length spiky blonde hair with a few bangs over his forehead, and over his left scarred eye which he had taken to keeping close as a way to make his opponents underestimate him. His single eye was a bright, almost glowing blue with a vertical black slit in it, an effect of his Yukai genes. He had a square jawline and his whisker marks on his cheeks. His body could only be described as taken from legends or coming from the gods of ancient mythology. He had a wide back, muscular but not overly bulky shoulders as well as arms and legs, well-muscled chest and 8 packs that even gods would be jealous of. He wore a black pair of pants with a blood-red shirt and white sneakers. Finally, there were 2 swords strapped to his left thigh, one with a white hilt and a black sheath and the other one with a black hilt and a white sheath. His arms, mainly his wrists, were packed with invisible seals that he was first taught by Kurama, who called them the art of sealing magic, but Naruto took it and made it into his own by combining mana and chakra, making them invisible as well as a lot more powerful. Kurama, who had walked behind Naruto, had not changed one bit. She naturally didn't age, being a Kitsune Yukai, and had not made any changes to her body. However, now that she stood next to Naruto's 62 form, she looked a little shorter than she used to, since she was always much taller than Naruto in the past. The two walked over and stood in front of Sirzechs' desk, an annoyed look plastered onto their faces. "This better be important for you to prevent me from going with Rias," Naruto said, looking at Sirzechs with his eyes narrowed. Sirzechs scratched his head nervously, sweating slightly. "I assure you it is something that would be much easier for you too," he said, straightening his back as he pulled out a paper and showed it to the two. "This is your mission. As you can see on the paper, your mission is located in the elemental nations, in a village called Kuoh," he said, and watched the usually calm Naruto let out a sigh of relief. "All right. There should not be any Konoha shinobi in Kuoh, so I should be alright. It's better they think I'm dead for now," he said and motioned for Sirzechs to keep going. "Well, this mission is pretty much perfect for you too. Kuroka, Kaneko's older sister, has gone to the elemental nation and was spotted in Kuoh. Since you two are so close to Koneko, I figured you could talk to her and figure out why she went to the elemental nations. However, do not forget that she is an S-ranked criminal. If she isn't open to talking, you are to use force and capture her. Though if she is open for talking, after you find out why she went to the elemental nations, try to find out what happened to her old master, and why she killed him. If possible, we want Kuroka on our side since she is strong and could be of help." He finished and Naruto took a moment to process the information. Finally, he nodded his head. "All right. We'll do it," he simply said, taking the paper and disappearing from the office with Kurama through a teleportation circle, going quickly as he wanted to finish this mission as soon as he could. The two appeared on a mountaintop and looked around at the view of the elemental nations. "Who would have thought that we would be back here so soon, at Kurama-chan?" Naruto asked, the few pleasant memories he had from his early life in Konoha flashing in his eyes. Kurama nodded her head. "Yeah, it sure has been a while. I actually never asked you, do you want to go back to Konoha sometime? Maybe when your peerage gets a little bigger?" she asked for the sake of asking, expecting Naruto to instantly deny her offer. However, much to her surprise, Naruto took a few moments before nodding his head. "I've actually been thinking about it a few months back and have already sent someone to do some research on how Konoha has been over the past few years," he said, his fists clenching as he spoke his next words. Apparently, Mikoto Bacon's eldest son had killed the whole Uchiha clan, herself included, leaving only his little brother alive there, he said, his tone cold and empty. Kurama turned to look at him in shock. She wrapped him up in her arms, trying to comfort him. "I'm alright. You don't need to worry. That is my main reason for wanting to go back to Konoha. My spy found out that the humans found a way with their chakra to temporarily bring a soul back into a body from the next world. That is exactly what I need in order to fully revive someone using my evil pieces. I plan on finding whatever technique that is and using it to bring her back before officially making her into one of my pawns, even if she is weak. It's the least I can do for her in return." He explained his plan and Kurama sadly nodded her head in understanding. "My spy told me that a few months after my 18th birthday, there would be the graduating test from the Shinobi Academy for my age group, which would be the perfect time for me to get back to Konoha and get access to the techniques of that village. Plus, I could help Hiruzen out a bit for all that he has done for me in the early years of my childhood, he explained, and Kurama nodded once again. I see. So you are planning to go back with all of us, members of your peerage, and probably with Rias and her peerage right after your raiding game with Riser. I will obviously follow you wherever you go, and I believe that so would Rias and the rest, she said, releasing Naruto from her embrace to give him a short kiss on the lips. The two quickly broke the kiss before in unison spreading their wings out and starting to fly down the mountain and into the village that was set up around the middle of the mountain. The two landed in an alley without anyone noticing them, their wings disappearing into their backs as they walked out of the secluded alley. The two walked through the village, attracting some attention from the people around them. After all, the two of them were at the top of the appearance score for their respective gender. However, it was nothing bad since they didn't do anything suspicious. The two walked into a small tea house and sat down, ordering a cup of tea for each of them. As the pair sat down and drank their tea, they sensed around the whole village for anyone with a strong mana signature. For the both of them, who were exposed to chakra for a rather long time, it was easy to tell between mana and chakra. I found her, Naruto simply said. The two of them quickly downed their tea and left the money on the table before calmly walking through the village towards where Kuroka was. It took the two quite a bit of time to make it to her location since she was on the other side of the village, and they didn't want to make anyone suspicious of them by running, but they finally made it. It was the village square, and it was full of people. In the middle of the square, there were people putting on shows for the bypasses in exchange for donations. Among them, there were clowns, tricksters who claimed to be magicians, and finally, there was the titled unmoving lady who in actuality was Kuroka meditating, completely still. Neither Naruto nor Kurama knew what she was trying to do, but as they approached her, her eyes opened and she stood up, looking at the two of them. She packed up her things and calmly started to walk away, Naruto and Kurama following her at the same pace she went. Kuroka finally went into a secluded alley and stopped, turning to look at her pursuers. I'm not going to say it again. I will not allow myself to be captured by the two of you and let you take me back to the underworld. I have something to do in this village, and I will not leave it until I'm done, she said calmly, standing in front of the two proudly. Kuroka was a beautiful young woman with a voluptuous figure, long black hair with split bangs, and hazel gold eyes with cat-like pupils. She had fair skin, stood at the height of 161 centimeters, and looked to be around 18 years old. Her attire consists of a black kimono, a yellow obi, and a set of golden beads. The kimono features a red interior and it is open at her shoulders, giving view to her large breasts. Her slender fingers lit up in a purple light as she started to write symbols in the air. Just as she finished, a purple mist flew towards Naruto and Kurama. Kurama casually stepped forward and held her hand forward, a barrier of blue flames completely burning away the poisonous mist. Kuroka growled at the two and went to start writing again. However, Naruto appeared right next to her and grabbed her hand, stopping her in place. Kuroka's face was pale and she looked at Naruto in horror and disbelief. What are you going to do? She asked in fear, realizing that Naruto was leagues above her. Naruto sent her a charming smile. Don't worry. We just came here to talk. We were sent to retrieve you into the underworld, but I'd much rather have you come with us by your own free will and later have you on our side. I figured that I'd ask why you came here and see from there, so, would you kindly tell us why you came to this world? He asked, his smile melting her heart as he released her hand and sat down on the ground, leaning on the nearby wall. Kurama quickly joined him and sat next to him silently. Kuroka looked skeptical before sighing and sitting down to Naruto's other side, though not making any kind of physical contact with him, unlike Kurama, whose whole body was leaning onto his own. You see, as I'm sure you know, I have a little sister, Chiron, she said, to which Naruto nodded. Yes. We know her quite well. She is a member of the peerage of one of my women, he explained, to which Kuroka gave him a shocked look. Why else do you think we would casually sit down and have a chat with an S-ranked criminal? He asked jokingly, smiling at her. Kuroka blushed slightly before she cleared her throat. What you don't know is that I also have an elder sister. Her name is Matatabi, and from what I heard, she was sealed into a human who resides within this village. This is the reason I came here. I came to reunite with the last part of my family, she said, and Naruto nodded in understanding. He opened his mouth and went to reply, but Kurama spoke up before he could. Really? I never expected you to be sisters with Matatabi-chan, she commented. Both Naruto and Kuroka looked at her strangely, to which she sheepishly scratched the back of her head. Sorry, it's just been a while since we saw each other. Actually, it's been more than 20 years since we last saw each other. Your parents brought her here along with me when we came to the elemental nations. She was also selected by your parents to be a member of your peerage. Though probably a rook since she wasn't as strong as I was, I never would have thought that she would be here of all places after we came to the human world. She went out to explore the world to make sure there were no threats to you, but she was defeated by a whole army of humans using chakra, and we haven't spoken to her since. Kurama explained, and Naruto only stared at her in disbelief. Kuroka, however, was even more shocked. Just who is he to have deserved my sister on his peerage, and by her own will at that? She asked, almost fearing the answer. Kurama glanced at Naruto, and after seeing him shrugging, she spoke. Naruto-sama is the son of the legendary Kushina Gremory and Minato Phoenix. If I'm not mistaken, you are almost half of the Kitsune Yukai race like Matatabi, with my own father acting as your father as well. That means that Koneko had the Kitsune Yukai bloodline all this time and we didn't know it. Kurama continued to mumble to herself. However, around her, even Naruto was shocked to find out that Kuroka, Koneko and Kurama were half-sisters. Kuroka herself was absolutely shocked, her brain going through a full restart before she was able to comprehend what Kurama had said. She fearfully looked at Naruto. Why, you are him? Are you really him? She asked in shock. Before my sister left, she told me that she had found herself a perfect master to serve and that she couldn't be more happy with her decision, but now it turned out you weren't even born yet, and she was going based on your parents, she said silently, as if accusing him of her kidnapping. Naruto smiled at her again. Don't worry, Kuroka-chan. I'll help you find your sister. It's the least I can do right now. Also, I won't pressure you to tell me what happened with your previous master and why you killed him, but I'll tell you that not all devils are like that, and if you ever want to rejoin with your sisters, you have a place in my peerage open for you for as long as it's not full, so take your time in deciding, he said, smiling slightly in helplessness at Kuroka before closing his eyes and searching for a signature with both chakra and mana, which should only be Matatabi and her container. As Naruto closed his eyes, Kuroka looked at him in surprise. She always had pictured a disloyal and bad person was the one who took her sister away from her, since her sister never came back and didn't send any kind of message to assure her sister that she was alright. However, now she found out that Naruto wasn't even born when her sister was kidnapped and didn't even know of her existence up until now. Not to mention that now that Naruto knows about Matatabi, he is helping her search for her without hesitation. A new image of Naruto started to appear in her mind as she watched him meditate. He found what he was looking for after a few short minutes and stood up. I found Matatabi and her container. However, they are in a rather weak state with Matatabi completely locked away and her container surrounded by 10 stronger shinobi. We should teleport there quickly, otherwise something bad could happen, as he explained. The two girls instantly stood up, grabbing hold of him and disappearing into his teleportation circle. In another secluded alley on the other side of Kumogakure, there was a young woman around 17 years old surrounded by 10 men. The woman was beautiful even though she looked as if she just came out of a battle. She had long blonde hair that was very messy, a part of it going over her face and the rest laid all over her back. She had blue eyes with a cat-like vertical slit, and she had red lipstick on parts of her lips while the other parts were slightly bloody. Her face was round but full of cuts and bruises. She wore a short-sleeved black and purple blouse that struggled to keep her borderline E-cup breasts in check, though the blouse was almost ripped apart, leaving only a small part that covered her big chest. She wore what looked to be black A&BU pants, only that they were cut open all over and her left sleeve was missing from the middle thigh down where there was a rather big, bloody cut. Her black pants, while cut, still looked good on her, complementing her large ass. One of her hands had a purple fingerless glove while the other one was missing it. She wore shinobi sandals and a kunai holster, which was strapped to her right thigh. She was covered in cuts, blue marks, and she had quite a bit of blood on her body. She kneeled on her right knee, leaning on it as she panted and glared at the 10 men around her. She had been fighting them for the past few hours. At the beginning, she was shouting out for help, and shooting fireballs into the sky to alarm the other shinobi of the village, but after a while, she just stopped and focused on trying to survive, something that was already difficult enough when she was facing 10 opponents at once. On her revealed stomach was writing in black ink with red writing on it. That was the seal which held Matatabi, and the red symbols were the men's way of making sure she didn't help the woman at all throughout the whole battle. Now, the young woman was exhausted. She couldn't fight anymore with her chakra exhausted. She had nothing more to do than expect her death by the hands of those 10 men. Just as she thought about killing herself to prevent the men's enjoyment, the strongest of the group of men stepped forward, his sword held up. It's a shame our orders were to immediately kill you. It's a waste to kill such a beautiful woman. You would sell for so much on the slave market, he said before shrugging his shoulders. Oh well, we were paid enough for it to be worth it. Do you have any last words? He asked mockingly, grinning smugly. The woman glared at him but said nothing. The man shrugged his shoulders. Oh well, you can die silently, he said as he slashed down at her neck, going to decapitate her. Just then, a red circle with writing on it appeared on the floor in front of the woman, and out of it came a sword that blocked the man's own sword. The man was shocked and the woman looked at the sword in disbelief. Out of the circle a man and 2 women jumped. The 3 of them stood defensively in front of the woman and glared at the group of men. Naruto sneered before turning to look at the woman, his sneer replaced by a charming smile, trying to calm down her fear. He inwardly frowned at the condition she was in. He doubted that he could heal her, even with his fire healing magic. Kill them all, he ordered calmly to Kurama. However, as Kurama dashed forward, Kuroka followed her, killing the men alongside her. Naruto looked at the woman's stomach and quickly undid the seal that kept Matatabi locked away. Blue fire engulfed the woman's body, but that wasn't enough. Naruto tried to help heal up the now unconscious woman with his own fire magic, but it didn't help. Finally, the blue flames died down, and the woman was quickly dying. At that time, Naruto placed the girl on her back on the floor, lowering her out of his arms. The seals on his wrist glowed before a pawn piece appeared in his palm. He placed it on the woman's chest, right between her breasts, and started to chant. I, Naruto Gremory Phoenix, hereby order your rebirth as a devil of my peerage. You shall serve me as a pawn of mine until the day either one of us dies, he said, and the woman was engulfed by a bright red magical circle that floated up from the ground beneath her. As the magical circle disappeared, the woman's wounds had closed, and her skin became flawless once again. She very suddenly opened her eyes and quickly sat up. The pawn piece had long been absorbed into her body. She looked around her to see Naruto smiling right at her from in front of her, and couldn't help blushing slightly as she took his features in. As she continued to look at him longer, the blush on her face steadily brightened. Just before she could realize she was shamelessly and openly staring at Naruto's handsome face, a cough from her right made her snap out of her trance. She looked over and saw two busted women looking at the two of them, the corpses of her 10 attackers laying on the ground lifelessly behind them. Just as she was about to speak, she heard a voice in her head. And no way! She was used to this voice. It was the voice of her only friend. It was Matatabi. She was shocked to hear Matatabi stuttering in shock. What is it, Matatabi-chan? She asked mentally, speaking in her head. Matatabi couldn't contain her excitement. Those two are my sisters. The red-haired woman is my half-sister Kurama-chan, and the black-haired girl is my little sister, Kuroka-chan. If Kurama-chan is here, that could only mean that the young man in front of you is my Naruto-sama, she said, almost crying tears of excitement. The woman was speechless. Your sisters? And what is it about your Naruto-sama? She asked her friend. I'll explain to you later. But what you should know right now is that the young man in front of you is my own master, the one I came to this world for, and that his power is far beyond your wildest imagination. She explained, her tone happy and full of emotion. The woman could not comprehend what her friend was saying, but she ran out of time in her questioning. However, just before her consciousness returned to the real world, she heard the words. You can't possibly imagine how truly lucky you are to have the honor of being in Naruto-sama's peerage. You really should be grateful to him for allowing you to join his peerage. As she came out to the real world, she saw Naruto's face right in front of her own, waiting. He knew she was talking with Matatabi since he was in the same state whenever he talked to Kurama back when she was still inside of him. As Naruto noticed her eyes focusing up, he smiled and leaned back. How are you feeling? He asked gently. I'm alright, she replied subconsciously with a cold tone. Kurama went to discipline her by hitting her, but Naruto raised his hand, stopping her. The woman herself realized her tone came out cold, and was quick to bow her head. I apologize. I didn't mean for it to come out like that, she said quietly. Naruto smiled as he saw Kurama nodding her head in satisfaction. It's alright. Don't worry. I'm sure Matatabi told you already, but I am Naruto Gremory Phoenix, and these two are Kuroka and Kurama. How about you? He asked, his gentle smile not leaving his face, wanting to make her feel at ease. The woman blushed slightly. I'm Yujito-ni, she said, and did not add anything. Naruto nodded his head. Well, the first thing we should do right now is release Matatabi now that you are no longer human. It shouldn't be a problem, he said, looking at Yujito. She just stared at him. Huh? You want to take Matatabi out of me? Wait, what do you mean not human? She asked, comprehending what he said mid-sentence. Naruto smiled and sat down on the floor. He patted the space next to him, gesturing for her to sit next to him. It's a long explanation. Sit down and I'll start, he said, watching as Yujito skeptically sat next to him. Naruto then took his time to explain to her the basics about the 4 different worlds, the main species, what a peerage means, what Matatabi was, and finally, how he was forced to use one of his own evil pieces to save her from dying. Yujito did her best to understand what Naruto said, and after he finished, she didn't know how to feel. From what she understood, Naruto's evil pieces were very valuable and precious, yet he used one on her so casually. However, now that Naruto explained to her what was going on, she understood what Matatabi said to her earlier. Naruto's strength was absolutely far beyond her wildest imagination. She wasn't at all upset about Naruto's use of the evil piece on her, which practically bound her to him, and was now forcing her to leave her village. It was because she had nothing to stay in the village for. She had no friends, no family, and she was not treated well in the village. As a matter of fact, she was ecstatic to leave her village, especially with someone as strong as Naruto to protect her and teach her how to get stronger on her own, not by using Matatabi's power like she always did. After thinking over what Naruto said for a while, she looked up at him and nodded. Alright. I will follow after you. If you have a way to extract Matatabi from my body, you should do it. I want to get strong on my own, without anyone helping me do it, she said determinedly. Naruto nodded his head with a charming smile on his face. He placed his hand on Yujito's exposed stomach where her seal was and closed his eyes. Yujito's face reddened more and more as she felt his warm palm on her stomach. Suddenly, Naruto pulled his hand out, and a blue energy followed it out of Yujito's stomach. The energy disconnected from Naruto's hand and started to form a human-shaped object. After a little while longer, it finished forming what turned out to be a human body of a mature woman. She had waist-length blue hair with light blue eyes that had a vertical slit in them like the eyes of a cat. She stood at the height of 5 feet 4 inches and had fair skin. She looked around 16 years old, and on top of her head were 2 cat ears, making up for the lack of human ones, and 2 blue-furred cat tails coming out of her backbone. Her face was heart-shaped, and on it was a small button nose and heart-shaped lips. Her breasts were a large E-cup, borderline F-cup. Her wide chest shrunk as they went down to around the waist, and flared out Aegon into a very big ass. She had thick thighs and long smooth legs. Overall, her figure and her beauty in general could rival the likes of Kurama. She was completely naked, much like Kurama was when she first came out of Naruto's seal. The woman's head suddenly moved and she looked around. She shook her head once before seemingly gaining her memory back. She looked to her right, and jumped over at the two women standing there. Kurama-chan! Kuroka-chan! I haven't seen you two in such a long time, she said in total joy. Yujito was still dazed slightly from the extraction, so she couldn't really tell what was going on around her. Kurama and Kuroka hugged their sister's naked form happily, glad to have gotten her back. Naruto simply looked at the three with a smile on his face. He was way too used to the sight of a beautiful female body being naked around him, as all of the girls that made a habit out of sleeping with him always slept naked. He couldn't help sighing in his mind. Both Rias and Akino, who he had watched develop over the years, had grown into real beauties, with the potential to rival even Kurama's legendary beauty and body once they fully mature in around a year. The two were already almost the same as Kurama in terms of body, with perfectly large and round breasts as well as ass. They only needed to mature their face a little bit, and they would be just as perfect as Kurama. Though their not fully matured face wasn't the perfect beauty like Kurama, it added a touch of cuteness that Kurama's natural face didn't have. It was only when Kurama did certain things that she appeared cute, unlike Rias and Akino's natural cuteness. Naruto was suddenly tackled back, knocking him out of his thoughts and making his back contact the ground. On top of him was Matatabi, who had wrapped herself around him and hugged him very tightly. Naruto-sama! I finally got to meet you. I missed the part where you grew up, though I have to admit that Minato-sama's handsome looks really transferred to you. You've grown into such a handsome young man, she said cheerfully, planting her lips on his cheek. If Naruto wasn't used to Rias, Kurama and Akino hugging him with their naked body and kissing him, he probably would have died of blood loss as the busted blue-haired woman pressed herself tightly onto him and kissed his cheek. Naruto only smiled. Thank you, Matatabi-chan. I'm happy to know you like the way I look, he answered simply. Matatabi pouted. Oh, come on, Naruto-sama, do you not like my body? She asked, pressing her naked breasts into his chest and giving him a seductive look. Naruto went along with her. Oh, it's nothing like that, it's just that I'm used to this kind of thing. A kiss on the cheek is not enough to get me interested, he said, smiling teasingly as he sat up and grabbed a firm hold of Matatabi's ass before standing up, holding her up with him. The Catwoman giggled as she moaned teasingly. Oh, Naruto-sama, you know how to make a woman want you, don't you? She asked before leaning forward and planting her lips on his. Naruto was at first surprised since he was only joking with her and never expected her to actually go with it, but he didn't lose his cool and kissed back, taking control of the situation and dominating her mouth with his own. They broke the kiss with a thin trail of saliva stretching between their tongues as they looked at each other, a hungry look in Matatabi's eyes as she looked at Naruto's calm expression. She was left panting from Naruto's tongue skills and the rough way he grabbed hold of her ass. Meanwhile, Naruto calmly grinned at her. You're gonna have to do a lot better than that to match up with Kurama-chan, he said, sneaking a look at Kurama to see her smiling calmly. He winked at her before turning back to look at Matatabi only to find her still in a daze, blushing with her mouth slightly open and her eyes clouded. He smiled slightly. Well, it's not the time for that, she's got some work to do before we can go there, he said, gently holding the naked woman in his arms and waiting for her to recover. Meanwhile, he turned his smile to Kuroka. When Matatabi-chan will wake up, I'll make her into my rook. Do you want to join along with her or do you still need time to think? He asked her. Kuroka looked at Kurama, then at her elder sister and finally onto Naruto. I'll be honored to join your peerage. Thank you for your kindness, she said smiling. She was actually very happy to go into Naruto's peerage right now. It allowed her to escape the fate she would have as a supposed criminal. It would allow her to see her younger sister again, and she started to like Naruto more and more as time went on, so she didn't mind serving under him at all. Naruto smiled. All right. You made a good decision. I promise you'll be treated well, he said kindly. Naruto felt something wet pressing against his neck and turned only to find Matatabi kissing his neck hungrily. Naruto grinned down at her as he patted her head. You're not half bad, Matatabi-chan. However, you'll need to do a lot more to get me excited, he said, and after seeing her ignoring him, he went for a different approach. Get down and lie on the ground now, he ordered, releasing his domineering masculine aura. Matatabi's animalistic instinct screamed at her to obey, and she quickly did as he asked. As she went to lie down on the cold floor, Naruto created a bed of blue flames for her naked body to rest on. So that's how it is, Naruto sighed to himself, seeing the naked blue-haired woman looking up at him excitedly. Her pupils almost turned into hearts as her eyes were clouded by lust. Naruto didn't really know how to deal with her, but for now, he knew how to control her. He turned his head to look at Kuroka, who looked to also be slightly affected by the way he handled her sister. She was rubbing her legs together, and her breathing was a little heavier. He only shook his head. Go lie down next to her, he ordered, seeing that it was the way to go with the two sisters. Kuroka quickly followed after her sister, lying down next to her on the bed of blue flames. Naruto looked at Yujito. Yujito-chan, would you like to come here and get a closer look at the rebirth of someone as a devil? He asked as the seals on his wrist glowed. Yujito unconsciously nodded her head and walked towards Naruto, her mind slightly clouded from seeing the heated exchange between Naruto and Matatabi. She watched as Naruto crouched next to the two girls and placed one of the two rook pieces that appeared out of his wrist seal between Matatabi's naked breasts. Then he slipped the other rook piece between Kuroka's covered breasts before standing up. I, Naruto Gremory Phoenix, hereby order you both to be reborn as devils of my peerage. You both are to serve under me and answer whatever order I give you to the best of your ability, as my rooks until the day either one of us dies, he said, and the women were engulfed by a bright red magical circle that floated up from under the blue flame bed and over them. The two were swallowed by a red light, and when the light disappeared, the two had two bat wings burning in blue flames sprouting out of their upper back. The two sat up and closed their wings back into their backs. They stood up and bowed towards Naruto. Thank you for bringing us into your peerage, Naruto-sama, they both said together. Naruto smiled and waved them off. No need to thank me or call me that, he said before turning to look at Yujito and Kurama, who were silently standing next to him. Alright, girls, we'll be leaving the elemental nations for now. We are gonna go back to the Gremory estate to report the mission as a success before going over to the overworld for a few months. We have a raiding game in around 3 months to prepare for, and after we're done with that raiding game, we'll be coming back to the elemental nations. Naruto explained. The three yokai around appeared to be very excited for the raiding game, while Yujito looked to be confused. Naruto grabbed her hand and pulled her into his chest. Don't worry. We'll explain everything soon enough, he told her gently. Yujito's face was pressed right into Naruto's muscular chest, her cheeks red and her eyes clouded as she inhaled the strong muscular scent Naruto had. Kurama quickly wrapped herself around Naruto's back, her head resting on his shoulder. Kuroka and Matatabi understood and joined in, Matatabi excitedly throwing herself onto Naruto's chest, her naked chest rubbing up and down his stomach as she nuzzled into his chest. Kuroka just grabbed onto Naruto's hand and pushed it into her chest between her breasts as she rested on his shoulder. Naruto just sighed at the actions of the women around him. A red magical circle appeared under them and they were all swallowed by it, disappearing into thin air and leaving nothing behind. The five appeared inside of Naruto's room in the Gremory estate, where Naruto dropped Matatabi onto the bed. Kurama-chan, get Matatabi-chan some clothes and introduce Yujito-chan and her to Grayfield Wunchin. I'll take Kuroka-chan and go talk to Sirzechs. Once you're done, bring the two of them to Sirzechs' office so I could introduce them as the new members of my peerage, he said, releasing himself from the girls before wrapping his hand around Kuroka's waist and disappearing in another magical circle. Kurama looked at her younger sister and smiled. Come on. Let's go to my closet and get you some clothes, she said, grabbing her sister by the hand and walking off. Yujito-chan, you are welcome to come pick whatever you want to, after all, you only brought a single set of clothing on you, she said, smiling at the human-devil hybrid. Yujito smiled back and ran after Kurama and Matatabi, catching up to them in a few short seconds. As the three girls went towards Kurama's closet, Naruto and Kuroka appeared inside of Sirzechs' office out of a red magical circle. At first, Sirzechs didn't even raise his head from his paperwork, recognizing Naruto's magical circle. However, as the circle released the people coming in through it, he sensed a powerful and unfamiliar mana coming out of a person. His head instantly shot up and he looked at the forming silhouettes of the two people who were getting out of the teleportation circle. The first person to fully materialize was Naruto, putting Sirzechs' heart at ease. However, right next to Naruto appeared a person he never would have thought would stand in his office. Kuroka stood next to Naruto, his arm around her waist and her body leaning on his side. He looked hesitantly at the two of them for a few seconds before clearing his throat. And Naruto-kun? Sirzechs was so confused that he couldn't even form a full question. Naruto laughed. He held Kuroka tightly against his body. Let me introduce you to one of my new rooks. Sirzechs, this is Kuroka. Kuroka, this is Sirzechs, one of the 4 Satans and my soon-to-be brother-in-law, he said, introducing the two to each other. Sirzechs stared at him in disbelief. Are you pranking me again with your transformation technique? He asked suspiciously. Naruto laughed. While that would truly be hilarious, I'm not. This really is Kuroka, and she really is one of my new rooks, he explained. Sirzechs slowly nodded. Alright, wait, one of your new rooks? He asked in realization. As if on cue, Kurama's blue magical circle appeared on the floor next to Naruto and Kuroka to Naruto's left side. Out of the magical circle came Kurama, who was dressed in her normal outfit with Yujito and Matatabi standing to either side of hers. Yujito was wearing a light blue sleeveless shirt with a V-cut that revealed her cleavage generously. The shirt was a little loose on her since her chest was not nearly as big as Kurama's, but it was still big enough to look normal on her. She wore a pair of white shorts that reached to her middle thighs and made her naturally large ass look a little larger, even though again, it wasn't as big as Kurama's. The pants revealed her long, smooth white legs and on her feet she wore light blue sneakers. Matatabi wore a very short white shirt that struggled to keep her massive breasts in check, seeing as hers were bigger than Kurama's. The shirt revealed her stomach and had a big V cut to reveal even more of her cleavage. She wore an extremely short pair of red shorts that was a little loose on her ass and ended just under it. It revealed the rest of her thick thighs and smooth white legs while also contrasting with her white sneakers. Sirzechs raised his eyebrows at the arrival of the new women as he watched Matatabi attach herself to Naruto's side, her chest pressed tightly into him. Naruto smiled at Sirzechs. Well, you asked as I already told you, Kuroka-chan here is one of my new rooks. And this here is Matatabi. She is Kuroka's older sister and Kurama's half-sister as well as my second rook. Naruto introduced before motioning for the two other girls to move over and they stepped in front of Naruto. Naruto leaned forward and wrapped his arms around the shoulders of Kurama and Yujito. Finally, this is Yujito. She was a human back in Kumogaku before I turned her into my first, and only pawn for the moment, he explained. Sirzechs could only dumbly nod his head as he looked at the four beautiful women surrounding Naruto. He wasn't upset at seeing the man that was clearly going to marry his little sister so intimate around other women simply because it was very common for a male devil to take multiple women for himself. Actually, he himself was the oddity for taking only a single woman in as his own instead of multiple. Naruto grinned. Oh yeah? Matatabi-chan, Yujito-chan, this is Sirzechs. He is one of the four Satans and my soon-to-be brother-in-law. He said to them. The group appeared in the country of Japan in the overworld, more specifically, in the town of Kuoh where their school is located. They appeared in some undergrowth coming out with a small backpack over the shoulders of each of them. They walked out to the main road and walked along with the crowd of people through the school gates. Naruto very quickly made his way towards his class, his girls following closely behind. He wanted to make sure Rias would be surprised when he came to her class after the first lesson. He asked some girl that walked next to them where was class 3B since she was looking at him unblinkingly, and he thought she wanted to know from which class he was. She blushed and stuttered for a little while, explaining to Naruto how to get there. However, even with the perfectly correct instructions from the girl, Naruto and the girls only found the class after the bell rang and the halls were cleared of students. They easily found the class after the halls were cleared, knocking on the door. Come in. Came a sweet and naturally sexy female voice. Naruto opened the door to the classroom by sliding it to the side and walked in, the girls following behind him. As he walked in, he noticed all of the students seated behind a table and a more mature woman standing in the front of the class, guessing her to be his new homeroom teacher. The teacher was a tall and buxom woman with brown eyes and long, navy blue hair that obscured her right eye. Her attire consisted of a maroon, trench coat-like top with a wide collar, a matching miniskirt, and black-heeled shoes. The trench coat top was open at her chest, giving view to her massive G-cup breasts and cleavage. At the same time, her miniskirt strained against her ass as if the massive cheeks were going to tear through it and pop straight out. She also wore a gold necklace around her neck. Naruto sent a charming smile that seemed to affect the super-hot teacher, making her blush slightly. Hello? I assume you are the homeroom teacher of this class, correct? Naruto asked, his smile remaining in place. She nodded her head in a daze. Why yes, I am. She shook her head and cleared her mind before smiling at him, her smile making her face even more beautiful. You five must be our new students, right? She asked, and Naruto nodded. Yes, we are, he replied. The woman nodded her head as she walked next to Naruto. Alright class, we have new students for today, she said, gaining the full attention of the class. She turned to Naruto and his group before placing a hand between her massive breasts on her chest. I am Calawarna, homeroom teacher of class 3B. How about you introduce yourselves? She asked warmly. Naruto nodded, turning to the crowd. I'm Naruto Gremory Phoenix and I am new here. Please accept me and my friends, he said, walking over to Kurama and wrapping his arms around her shoulders. These are Kurama, Matatabi, Kuroka and Yujito. They are all good friends of mine. He introduced and the girls waved, smiling at being called Naruto's friends. Calawarna, however, was not listening to Naruto after hearing him say his name. She licked her lips as she looked at him. A devil, huh? And a member of two great devil clans too, she thought, salivating as she hungrily and lustfully looked at Naruto. She quickly recovered though when she heard Naruto finish speaking. She smiled at Naruto and nodded before turning to the class. Does anyone have questions for Naruto-kun and his friends? She asked. Instantly, hands shot up into the air, eager to ask their questions. Calawarna turned to Naruto and smiled. Would you like to pick? She asked. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. You can pick whoever you want, he said, shrugging his shoulders. The teacher nodded her head and looked at the class, pointing at one of the students. Shinkun, she said. The boy in question stood up and lowered his hand. My name is Shinkubo and I'd like to know where you are from, he said, his eyes looking intently at the scar over Naruto's eye. Naruto glanced at the girls next to him. Well, I am originally from a village named Konohagakure where I grew up with Kurama-chan, he said and gestured for Yujito to continue. I'm from a village relatively close to Naruto-kun's village called Kumogaku, where I grew up with Matatabi-chan. Yujito explained. Kuroka stepped forward next. I've been traveling around ever since I could remember. I don't really remember where I was born, she said before stepping back into the line they made. Shin nodded his head before he sat back down. Hands rose up again and Calawarna pointed at one of the other students. Rinchan, she called. The girl quickly jumped to her feet, her hand lowering along with the hands of the other teens. My name is Rin Shimada. I couldn't help but notice the scar on your face and the fact that only one of your eyes is open. Can you tell us how you got it, Naruto-kun? The girl asked. Naruto placed his hand over his eye where his scar was. This thing, huh? Naruto asked, mostly to himself. Well, I got it in what you could call a one-sided fight. You see, the villages we come from, Konohagakure and Kumobakure, are shinobi villages. Training from an early age to be a ninja as strong as possible, the weak quickly die once thrown outside into the real world. I got my scar and the rest of the scars on my body when I was 5 years old and was forced to fight against a large number of adults, both civilians and ninja, Naruto explained, pulling up his sleeves and revealing his forearms covered in burns. The class was in shock at what he said and what he showed them. Naruto rolled his sleeves back down and smiled at the class. But that was a long time ago, and I've gotten over it, he explained, his smile bright, removing the fear from their heart. Rin sat down, her hand lowered and a pained look on her face. A few hands were raised again as she sat down, the girls of the class still a little too stunned and dazed to request to ask a question. Calawarna, surprised by Naruto's explanation but able to contain her surprise, looked at the boys wanting to ask Naruto a question and smiled at them. She pointed at a student. Aoi-kun, she said. The teen stood up, his hand already lowered. I'm Aoi Shimizu. No offense to any of you, but I find it very difficult to believe what you are saying. Do you have any proof you were ever a ninja? Do you know some ninja tricks? He asked. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Are you suggesting that I cut myself over my eye and burned my own hands? Plus, you only saw a fraction of what my body can prove, but if you want to see some ninja tricks. Naruto's voice was cut off as he was enveloped by smoke. The smoke disappeared and Naruto was nowhere to be found. A puff of smoke appeared next to the standing teen, clearing to show Naruto. Then here you go, a ninja trick, Naruto said, grinning at the teen's stunned face. He carelessly walked back towards his girls and the teacher. That is one of the most basic ninja techniques over where I'm from, and it is required to be known for anyone who wants to become a real ninja, he explained as he stopped in the place he disappeared from and turned to look back at the surprised class. Aoi dropped back on his ass, landing on the chair. Only a single hesitant hand rose after Aoi sat down, and Calawarna pointed at the girl who the hand belonged to. Aiko-chan, she called. The girl stood up and looked shyly at Naruto. And my name is Aiko Iwata. Why did you leave your village if you were good at being a ninja? She asked him. Naruto put a hand to his chin in thought. Well, the first reason is probably because I don't like killing needlessly, and that is most of what us ninja do. Other than that, even if I was the best shinobi, there is no way to guarantee that I'll come back alive from any kind of mission. It is a very dangerous job and lifestyle. It is very easy to die when you are always surrounded by enemies, Naruto explained. The girl shyly nodded her head. Thank you, she said, bowing politely before sitting back down. After seeing Naruto kindly explain to the girl, the students regained their confidence, and hands started raising again. Naruto smiled pleasantly as he and the girls answered the questions sent their way one after another, and without them even noticing. The time for the lesson was all used up for Naruto and his group's introduction. The bell rang loudly and Calawarna clapped her hands. Alright class. The time for this lesson is over. Go to your break and come back. We'll start our math lesson and see how much Naruto-kun and the girls know, she said, a smile resting on her beautiful face. The students all stood up and some started walking towards Naruto and the girls. However, Naruto, Kurama and Yujito all walked together out of the door, going to see Rias and the rest of the girls. Kuroka and Matatabi stayed behind since it would turn out very badly if the other devils would recognize Kuroka without Naruto being able to explain what happened. Matatabi, as a good sister who wanted to reunite with Koneko along with her younger sister at the same time, stayed with her and kept her company. Naruto, Yujito and Kurama just left their classroom, their destination being the first-year high schoolers. More specifically, to Class 1A where both Revel and Koneko were placed, the both of them being the same age and 2 years younger than Naruto. He made his way towards the class and suppressed his presence as best as he could, Yujito and Kurama doing the same. They finally made it to the class, Naruto opening the door to the class and walking in, drawing the attention of most of the young students in the class. He smiled at the two girls looking at him as he opened his arms and the two girls quickly tackled him. Oni-chan. You're finally here, Revel said happily. Naruto-kun. I missed you so much, Koneko added in her quiet voice, rubbing her face into his chest as he wrapped his arms around the two girls. It's nice to see you girls as well. He patted their backs. How about you join us? We're gonna go see Rias and the others now, he asked, to which the girls responded with an eager nod. As Naruto released them from the hug, he smiled as he saw the way they grew up. Koneko was built like a petite girl with white hair and gold eyes. The front of her hair has 2 long bangs going past her shoulders and several loose bangs hanging over her forehead, while the back has a short bob cut. She also wears a black cat-shaped hair clip on both sides of her hair. She wears the Kuoh Academy's girls' school uniform, without the shoulder cape. Revel, on the other hand, didn't change too much. She kept her blonde hair in the same design. The only thing that changed about her was her height and her clothing, now wearing the full uniform of Kuoh Academy. Naruto turned around and started walking away, all 4 girls following behind him as they made their way towards Class 3A. Making it to the class, Naruto opened the door and walked in confidently. Unlike the class of the younger students, pretty much no one was paying attention to him. He quickly located his targets around the far edge of the classroom. There were Rias, Akino, Sona and Tsubaki all talking to each other. Naruto couldn't help grinning pervertedly as he looked over the developed bodice all 4 of his girls were sporting. Sona had short black hair with light red, borderline pink eyes. She wore glasses over her eyes and had a hairpin on the left side of her short hair. She wore the standard Kuoh Academy uniform covering her amazing-looking body. She had a big ass, smooth long legs with thick thighs, a small waist and a C-cup chest that had the potential of becoming D-cup in the future. Next to her stood Tsubaki. She had knee-length black hair with honey-brown eyes, glasses over her eyes much like her king. She also wore the normal Kuoh Academy uniform covering her even more beautiful body. She had a big ass like Sona, long flawless legs with creamy thick thighs, a small waist and a big D-cup pair of breasts. Opposite of her stood Akino. She had ankle-length black hair tied in a ponytail with a red ribbon along with violet eyes. She wore the Kuoh Academy female uniform with knee-length stockings. She had long legs with thick thighs, a fat ass, a small waist and a pair of massive E-cup breasts on her chest. Finally, next to her stood Rias. She had long messy red hair with beautiful blue eyes. She, like the others, wore the Kuoh Academy uniform. She also wore white socks that matched well with her beautifully white and creamy legs, super thick thighs and massive ass. She had a narrow waist and a massive bust of at least an E-cup, around the same size as Akino, maybe a little bit smaller. All 4 of the girls had something of a gloomy mood around them as they spoke in the corner, not paying attention to what was happening around them. Naruto used his stealth skill to sneak behind them without any of them noticing and wrapped his hands around Rias and Akino, leaning on them from in between them. "Hey girls, miss me?" Naruto asked, smiling teasingly. Rias and Akino quickly recovered from the shock and grabbed hold onto Naruto's hand that was around them, hugging it to their chests. "Naruto-kun! You're here," Rias said happily, kissing Naruto lovingly on his lips. Akino pouted. "That's no fair, Rias-chan, I wanted to kiss him first," Akino said to her friend, forcefully pulling Naruto's mouth off of Rias's and placing her lips on his instead. Naruto couldn't help grinning as he bit down on Akino's bottom lip, making the girl moan happily. "Oh yes, Naruto-kun, hurt me more," she moaned, Naruto having already seen that her whole sadistic personality was hiding a big masochistic pervert behind it. The two separated after a long minute as Naruto turned to Sona and Tsubaki. He released Rias and Akino as he took a step forward, grabbing Sona by her chin and placing his mouth on her own. Rias nodded. "Yeah, I've got a new member to my peerage. Also, I have found something interesting, I'll talk to you about it later," she said. Naruto nodded. "What about you?" Rias asked. "How was your mission?" Akino added. Naruto smiled. "It was good, I've got 3 new members to my peerage, 1 here and the other 2 back in my class. But I'll introduce them to you all later after school. It won't end well if you'll meet them now," he explained, gesturing towards Yujito behind him. He walked over to Koneko. "I'm sure Koneko-chan would like the surprise I have for her," he said, smiling down at her brightly. Koneko looked up at him with her big eyes. "A surprise? What is it?" she asked. Naruto shook his finger at her. "I'm not telling. You'll have to wait to find out," he said, grinning as he watched Koneko pouting. Yujito politely bowed to the 4 devils in greeting. "It's nice to meet you. I am Yujito and I, Naruto-sama's pawn," she started, but after seeing Naruto shaking his head at her she coughed. "Sorry, Naruto-kun's pawn. He spoke very highly of you. It's my honor to meet you," she said, Naruto nodding in satisfaction. Rias smiled at the girl and took a step towards her. "It's nice to meet you as well. I am Rias Gremory and my friends are Akino, Sona and Tsubaki," she said, introducing the rest of the girls as well. Naruto smiled as he saw the interaction between his 5 girls, rubbing Kaneko's hair as he watched them. But, as all good things, the happy moment had to come to an end with the loud ringing of the bell. With one last kiss to each of the girls minus Ravel who took a hug, everyone returned to their classrooms. Naruto smiled as he felt the envious glares of the men around as he walked down the hall towards his class. When he walked into the class, Calawarna gave him and the girls their seat in class before starting to teach some math. After school, Naruto along with the 4 girls from his class walked towards the old academy building where Rias and the rest of the girls were meeting up after school. The group of 5 walked into the building and up some stairs before stopping in front of a room. Naruto opened the door and entered, Yujito and Kurama following behind him. Kuroka and Matatabi found themselves taking a deep breath to calm their excitement before following their master into the room. Naruto smiled at the group of devils in the room, recognizing everyone as Rias's peerage, Sona, Tsubaki and a blonde man that Naruto assumed was Rias's new servant. "Hello everyone, let me introduce you all to my new servants, both of my rooks. Koneko-chan can tell you who they are," he said, and in that instant Kuroka and Matatabi entered the room. Rias and Sona couldn't help gasping loudly, recognizing Kuroka instantly. Koneko on the other hand just looked at Kuroka in disbelief. "Why are you here?" she asked quietly, holding her tears inside her eyes. Kuroko walked into the room and hugged Koneko where she stood. It's alright now, everything will be good from now on, she said, comforting her sister as the smaller of the Nico yokai cried, releasing her tears into the big chest of her older sister. Matatabi smiled at the scene. It's nice to finally meet her, it's my first time seeing her, you know, she said, mostly talking to Naruto. Naruto nodded his head. Yeah, it must be nice for you, go. Don't wait here anymore, he said, pushing her gently towards the two hugging sisters. Kuroko released her hold over her sister and smiled at her, her own eyes filled with unshed tears. Imuto, look over there, do you remember when I told you about our older sister Matatabi? That's her. Naruto-sama saved her and reunited us all together, she explained, her voice cracking as a few tears fell out of her eyes. Koneko looked at Matatabi through red eyes. Why, you're my big sister? She asked in nothing but a whisper. Matatabi nodded her head, her eyes starting to water as well. Yes, I am, she whispered back. Without anything more said, Koneko released Kuroko and ran over, hugging the oldest of the three sisters. Koneko cried as she clutched onto her sister, as if she'd disappear again if she were to let go. Smiling at the heartwarming scene in the room, Naruto walked forward and grabbed Kuroko, hugging her into his chest with her back on him, his hands wrapping around her waist, and his head going onto her shoulders. I'm sure you all have questions, so go ahead, ask, Naruto said, smiling. Rias took a second before asking. Never mind all of that. Since when did Koneko have another sister? She asked, glancing at Matatabi. And what are Kuroko and her doing here? Sona added. Naruto let out a slight chuckle. That's all in my last mission, let me tell you what happened, he said, going on to explain everything that happened in the mission he just came back from. The explanation was satisfactory for Rias and Sona, helping them understand the situation. Naruto smiled at Rias. Now it's your turn, he said, motioning with his head towards the other blonde man in the room. He was a handsome young man with short blonde hair and blue eyes. He wore the Kuoh Academy's boys' school uniform, which consists of a black blazer with white accents over a white, long-sleeved dress shirt with a black ribbon on the collar, matching black pants, and brown dress shoes. The man bowed towards Naruto. I am Kiba. It's a pleasure to meet you, he said. Naruto nodded back to him. Naruto Gremory Phoenix. What's your sacred gear anyways? He introduced himself before asking, curious to see what made Rias take him into her peerage. Kiba looked at Rias for permission. She nodded and he turned back to Naruto. I can create swords. Any kind of swords in every shape you can think of, he said. Naruto looked at him as a grin slowly made its way onto his face. I have a favor to ask out of you. How about you come with me out of the room for a second so you can make me a sword? It's really specific and I want to surprise Rias-chan with it, Naruto asked. Rias raised an eyebrow as she saw Kiba looking at her for permission. Sure. Do whatever Naruto-kun tells you to do. I allow whatever he wants, she said. Naruto eagerly grabbed the other blonde man in the room and dragged him outside. So tell me, can you make a sword that has an affinity towards anti-magic? Naruto asked, his grin splitting his face. Kiba nodded his head, not sure where Naruto was going with it. Naruto practically jumped in place in excitement. Alright, so I want you to make an exact replica of this sword I'm going to show you and give it an affinity towards anti-magic. Naruto explained, showing him a picture he always carried on him of his favorite anime character Asta with his first sword, the Demon Slayer sword. Kiba nodded his head as he saw the sword. I can do it, he said simply, closing his eyes and focusing. A few seconds later a sword came out of the ground in front of Naruto, looking exactly like the Demon Slayer sword from Black Clover. Naruto's eyes shone as he grabbed the sword with his bare hands, nothing happening, because of the lack of anti-magic in the sword. Naruto quickly placed the sword on the ground and pulled out his brush and a container of ink. He started writing all over the sword and the hilt, covering the sword with writing. Now let's see, he said, picking the sword back up and the seals disappearing into the sword. Naruto coated his hands with chakra, making sure to not make direct contact with the sword as he channeled his mana into the seals on the sword. The sword instantly lit up in a black aura, making Naruto grin like a child in a candy store. It works. Yes, he said, strapping the sword on his back and shaking Kiba's hands enthusiastically. He released the man's hands before running back into the room. Rias-chan, look what I have now, he shouted, pulling the sword from his back. He held the massive sword up, revealing it for everyone to see. Rias's eyes widened. Now wait. Does it really work? Can the sword use anti-magic? She asked, her eyes shining as she ran over to Naruto. Naruto nodded. Yeah. It can, he said, hugging the sword to his chest. He suddenly turned around and ran out of the room. Let's go test it, he shouted back to her. Rias ran after him. Let's go. I want to see what it can do, she shouted happily. Everyone looked at them with a sweat drop as they watched the two young adults enthusiastically running around. Rias firing small balls of pure destruction magic at Naruto, and his new sword cutting right through them easily with the black aura engulfing it. What if Naruto was ancient Fox King in high school DxD? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel, and leave a like if you guys need the next part. comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.